Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Quarantine Theater Company read. Tonight, we're doing a 1991 favorite, The Rocketeer, from Disney. We all love this movie, so hopefully you're watching because you love it too. And we've got a cast of 7 today. We're going to fill out all those roles for you. We're going to start with Carina. She's going to be doing our scene description today. And then we have Lorelei, who will be reading as Jenny, and others. We're all reading as others, as usual. We have Rudy, who will be reading as Peevy. Logan, who will be reading as Cliff. We have George as Sinclair. And Anne as pretty much everybody. And myself, also pretty much as everybody. Yes, we'll go ahead and give you the Rocketeer. Anne is cameraman. That's the most important one. Anne is cameraman. All right, the Rocketeer.
The Rocketeer, screenplay by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, story by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo and William Deere, based on the characters created by Dave Stevens. Faded exterior, Chaplin Airfield, Los Angeles, 1938 day. We begin in blackness, with an ominous mumble. A brilliant crack of light splits the screen in half. The split widens. It's a hangar door opening, pushed by 2 men in silhouette. High angle from up the hangar rafters, in the dusty light, a strange and stubby caricature of an airplane is wheeled out into the tarmac, pushed carefully by 4 men in greasy overalls. Lanky Goose Taylor, thick-bodied Skeet Moran, Hudgy, red-faced Malcolm Willis, and grease monkey Eugene Turner. The black and yellow GB racer emerges from the darkness of the hangar, sunlight gleaming off its propeller and fresh paint. It's a little more than a gigantic radio engine with wings and a cockpit. A hunched, aggressive animal ready to pounce. A dozen or so flyers and mechanics watch from the runway edge. This is something they've been waiting for. Right shot. As the racer is pushed along the taxiway, 2 figures cross through foreground, converging with the plane. Cliff Scored is a handsome young aviator in jumpers and boots, a bit cocky and impulsive, with the easy movements of a natural athlete. His jaw works on a piece of chewing gum. Besides him strides Ambrose Peevy Peabody, late 50s, spectacled, weather-beaten, and quick-tempered, a self-taught engineer and master mechanic.
And keep her straight and level. Don't let me catch you getting fancy first time up.
Who, me?
Remember, she stalls at around 100. Keep your airspeed up or she'll wallow all over the sky if those start to shimmy on you.
Peevy, I have flown a plane or two, you know.
Not like this one, damn it. She's a handful. You gotta concentrate on her every second. Sneeze once and you'll be tail up in the bean field.
At the tail and sticks his chewing gum to the rudder and moves towards the cockpit.
That's fresh paint, damn it.
You want me to crash?
You and your lame brain superstitions. Chewing gum ain't gonna keep your ass in the air.
Swigs his leg over the cockpit and hoists himself up. He settles easily into the tight pilot seat. The plane fits him like a glove. Goose prepares to lower the canopy down over Cliff. Peevy stops him and looks Cliff straight in the eye.
Cliff, treat her right. She'll fly us all the way to the Nationals.
Cliff nods me at first, but can't restrain his roguish smile.
Let's make some history.
The infectious smile spreads to Peevy's face. As the canopy is lowered and fastened, Peevy steps back a few paces and flashes a thumbs up to Cliff, who grins and returns the gesture. The moment has arrived. Cliff nods to Peevy.
Switch on?
Crank her up, Skeets.
Skeet spits in his palms, takes hold of the blade, and pulls down hard. It catches on the first try, and the engine roars to life. Instant hurricane. The sweet thunder of 450 horses. Cliff revs the throttle. GB starts to roll. Peevy yanks the gum off the trail and flicks it away. He rubs his thumb over the paint to clean the spot, then moves clear. GB turns and taxis towards its starting position. Peevy and the ground crew cross the runway to watch from the bleachers. The GB swings around into position, pointed down the shimmering ribbon of asphalt. Dear GB Day. Cliff glances at a postcard-sized photo taped to his instrument panel, a black and white glamour shot of a gorgeous girl in satin gown. It's signed, with love, from your lady luck, Betty. A heart with an arrow through it is drawn around the name. Cliff opens the throttle. Indicator needles jumped. The plane picks up the speed and surges forward, pressing him back in his seat. Steer and field day. The fixed landing gear skittles over the asphalt, and then as the spectators hold their breath, the GB lifts and climbs gracefully, circling the field. Here day, the airspeed passes 200 mph. Cliff grins widen.
Watch this, Peeve.
Dear Chaplain Field Day. Cliff comes barreling in one across the field. Spectators whip around as the GB rockets directly overhead with a thunderous roar, tipping its wings in a victory salute. The plane climbs and levels off towards the surrounding foothills. On the ground, utter pandemonium. Peevy is smiling and calm as he gets bounced around in a back-slapping frenzy of jubilation. He suddenly frowns and looks down. He raises his foot to discover a sticky tangle of chewing gum on the sole of his shoe. Dear GB Day climbs effortlessly up into a glorious cloudscape and accelerates away, almost disappearing from view. Exterior backbow day, the fire erupting from the muzzle of a Tommy gun. The weapon is in the grip of a thick-necked man with a gnarled feature and brilliant hair. Lenny rides in the rumble seat of a tan Ford Roadster, sorted down switchback road by a police car and a green Plymouth sedan. Interior Roadster day. Wilmer is at the wheel, whipping through the curves, his ferret gaze barely clearing the dashboard. On the passenger seat is an odd suitcase, custom designed to hold some special instrument. The case is hand-tooled leather, the spine and fittings are brass. Here unmarked Plymouth day. Jake Woolley Wininski is at the wheel, thick-necked and square-jawed. His partner, Francis Fitch, is lanky and intense.
Hey, Fitch, you trying to save on ammo?
Hey, I can't get a clean shot. I wish that black and white would get out of our way.
No sooner said than done. A volley of Tommy gun bullets shreds the black and white front tiles. It spins out, careening off the road like a top. Lynch and Woolley duck as a barrel of bullets take out their windshield in a shower of glass.
Careful what you wish for.
Lynch levels his revolver out the window and starts blasting. Dear Roadster Day, a slug tears Wilmer's Read cap off his head. He touches his scalp and checks the rearview mirror for a gift. His reflection shatters as another slug obliterates the mirror. Steerable Day, Lenny rears up, Tommy gun blazing, his a pattern of bullets across the Plymouth's grill, blasting it to fragments. Steam belches from the ruptured radiator. Exterior Hill Day, Wilmer accelerates over a hill only to discover a Model T truck chugging up the other side. Wilmer whips the wheel and the car leaves the road, bouncing over a ditch and into a bean field. The Plymouth swerves side, swaying the truck and pursues the roadster into the field. Dear Beanfield Day. The cars race across the field, churning up a cloud of dust. Exterior Roadster Day. Lenny ducks down and slums a drum of fresh ammo into his Tommy gun. As he sits up, he spots the GB coming over the hill, headed straight for them. Lenny whips out the Tommy gun skyward. Exterior GB Day. Bullets strafe the plane, chewing through the metal, whipping holes in the underside and through the engine. A ricochet cracks the windscreen. Windscreen. Interior GB Day. The engine suddenly sputters and begins to emit grayish smoke. Cliff tries to stay cool as his instruments go haywire. He fights the controls, but losing battle. Exterior Road Day. The cars fishtail out of the bean field and back onto a winding road. A roadside sign flashes by. Chaplain Airfield, 1 mile.
Wilmer,
Wilmer looks back.
head for the airstrip. I can fly a plane.
Here, GB Day. Cliff fights the stick, barely in control. It's all he can do to keep himself from plowing into the hillside.
That's it. Don't die on me now. Easy does it. No more surprises, okay?
Surprise! A road blows through the wing. Cliff's canopy is instantly coated with a thick stream of motor oil. He's suddenly flying blind. He pounds frantically on the windscreen, trying to punch through the bullet-crazed glass. It finally gives way just in time for Cliff to see another plane coming right at him. Cliff screams and jerks back on the stick. Exterior GB Day hopped over with inches to spare what is revealed to be a highway billboard advertising the movie Wings of Honor. The tin propeller on the painted warplane spins wildly in the GB's wake. Exterior Eucalyptus Grove Road Day. The Plymouth pursues the roadster down a Eucalyptus Grove road. Filmer rips the wheel and goes tearing through the trees. The Plymouth chases the roadster on a parallel track. Flinch and Lenny exchange a furious bullets, ricochet off the eucalyptus trunks. Filmer reels a small roadster between two eucalyptus trees and barely gets through. Here, Plymouth Dave. Willie hits the gas, determined to follow the roadster through another gap. Flinch braces against the dashboard.
She ain't gonna make it.
The car slams to a jeering stop, caught between the two trees.
Like I said,
Willie glares back. He throws the car in reverse, grinding gears. Interior hangar day. We see the roadster tear across the open ground behind the hangars. The car drives into the hangar and screeches to a stop. Filmer hops out with the maroon suitcase and turns to the rear of the car.
Let's go, Lenny. We can't get caught with the...
Lenny is slumped in the rumple seat, staring with glazed eyes, dead.
lousy feds.
Exterior hangar day. The Plymouth -2 front fenders barrels across the field towards the hangar, shot to pieces, trailing steam and smoke. Exterior hangar day. Filmer mind races, eyes daring frantically about. His eyes fall onto the Art Deco vacuum cleaner and a duffel bag. He grins with desperate mischief. Exterior airfield day. The sound of the approaching GB reaches the stands. Peevy rises, his mechanic ear detecting a plane's labored sputter.
Something ain't right.
Then the GB appears, wobbling towards the runway, a plume of smoke boiling from the captain. The group stares in horror. Interior GB cockpit day. Descending, Cliff tries to wipe the spewing oil from his goggles. Through the billowing smoke, he can barely see the runway, only seconds away. Exterior Chaplain Field hangar day. Panic, Vilmer pilots the roadster out of the hangar doors and across the pavement. The FBI Plymouth screeches around the rear corner of the building and skids to a halt. Flitch leaps out, crouches into a marksman pose, and fires at the fleeing roadster. Speeding up the runway, Vilmer risks a look back at his pursuers. His body jolts as he is hit in the shoulder. He turns and gazes forward in time to see the GB a moment away from his windshield. Interior GB cockpit day. Through grease-smeared goggles, Cliff sees the roadster directly in his landing path. Crying out, he repeatedly yanks back on his stick. The exterior Chaplain Field day. Vilmer jumps from the car and bounces across the asphalt. The GB's landing gear brashes into the roadster windscreen. The impact wrenches the gears, and the plane and the GB's belly lands in a shower of sparks and shaved metal. The driverless roadster slams into a fuel tank parked at the runway's edge and erupts into a churning ball of flame and smoke. Exterior Chaplain Field after crash day. Goose and Skeets race from the building with fire extinguishers. With them is pudgy red-faced old hand Malcolm Willis. Behind him, a water truck and fire engine roar down the runway. Peevy dashes up to the smashed, smoldering GB.
Goose, give me a hand.
As Peevy and Goose attempt to wrench open the jammed cockpit, Skeets urgently waves Malcolm over.
get the flames out, Malcolm, before they hit the tank.
Malcolm and Skeet spray their extinguishers across the smoking fuselage, fighting the howling fire. Peevy and Goose release the canopy and pull Cliff to safety. Peevy and Cliff slide off to the side of the GB to the ground. Cliff turns back and snatches Betty's photo off the instrument panel. He stares helplessly at the wounded plane as Skeets and Goose put out the fire. Exterior one-way day. The plane is prowling with cops and feds. An ambulance stands by. Willie and Flitch make their way through the confusion with Cliff and Peevy dodging their every step. Emotions run high.
Let me get this straight. You chase some two-bit thugs onto our runway, they crash into my plane, and it's my fault?
Look, kid, no offense, but we've got more important things to do than get all sweaty over whose fault it was.
We put 3 years and every dime we had into that racer.
So file a gripe with Uncle Sam. Maybe you'll get lucky.
And wait 6 months, a year, we make our living on that plane.
Sorry, I took Ant's line.
I'm so
That's you, that's
confused.
you, that's you. Sorry.
Guess it's time to get a real job, and that's why I highlight.
This is too much for Cliff. He stuns everybody by hauling off and slugging Flitch in the jaw, knocking him right on his ass.
Why, you lousy!
Flitch scrambles to his feet and punches Cliff, knocking him into Peevy. Bystanders jump in and separate the two. Peevy and the ground crew grab Cliff and restrain him while Wooly holds Fitch back with a hand against his chest.
Relax, Joe Louis.
Fitch eases off. He looks around and sees a lot of angry faces. Everyone's ready to mix it up, flyers and feds alike.
That one's free, kid. Keep it up and you'll be eating dinner through a straw.
Cliff starts forward. Peevy restrains him.
Gee, man, for Pete's sake. You looking for time in the slammer? Come on.
He drags Cliff off. Fitch rubs his aching jaw.
Hey, son of a bitch hangs on my kisser and you let him waltz?
Maybe you had it coming.
Fitch and Wooly stalk over to the ambulance. They've got Vilmer on the gurney, bandaged and splinted from head to toe, ready to be loaded on. Fitch motions for them to wait. He leans down.
Your pal is in the rumble seats playing his heart. If you make it to County General, your next stop's Alcatraz. So spill. Where's the package?
Homer chuckles through his blood-spattered lips.
Blown to hell. Go look for it.
Get him out of here.
The ambulance door closes on Vilmer, and it speeds way down the one-way. Exterior one-way day. Fireman with thongs is carefully extricating a smoking object from the wreck of the roadster. Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. Hey, Flitch, take a look at this. Flitch and Wooly approach the remains of the roadster. The firearm raises a charred, twisted lump of metal into view, its shape vaguely suggesting a streamlined find object.
That's the gizmo, all right.
Flitch digs a nickel out of his pocket.
Call him Wooly.
Why me?
He likes you.
Wooly sighs. Goes to make the call. Interior Howard Hughes' office day. The balcony of a wide, plush office opens to Santa Monica Hills and the ocean beyond. A tall leather chair is pulled up in the walnut desk. The man, seated at the desk, is talking on the telephone.
Sure, this can be Howard Hughes. There's no mistake about that, Wooly. I see. It was damn sloppy. Well, yes, it could have been worse. Right.
He hangs up. The chair turns to reveal its occupant. Howard Hughes is tall, rugged, handsome. His dark hair is combed back, and a pencil-thin mustache adorns his upper lip. He stares across the desk at two War Department liaisons in the dark suits.
That was Walensky. They chased into an airstrip into the valley. There was a wreck on the runway. The X-3 was destroyed.
Two men exchange looks of disappointment and relief.
Better lost than in the wrong hands.
How soon can you rebuild it?
Rebuild it? Not a chance.
My people in Washington will have something to say about that.
Your people in Washington want to turn anything that flies into a weapon. Apparently, somebody else had the same idea.
Hughes picks up a thick portfolio and rifles through it, gazing at his diagrams with an almost wistful regret.
Sir, I'm afraid we must insist.
I'll remind you boys that I don't work for the government. I cooperate at my discretion. 2 of my best pilots were killed in the test phase. God knows how many more men would have died if it had flown. Sorry I ever dreamed up the damn thing.
Before the other men can react, he drops the portfolio into the fireplace. The hungry flames consume blueprints, documents, and notes.
You can't do that.
What'll we tell the president?
In the fireplace, smoke curls from a watercolor rendering of a proposed Hughes aircraft pavilion for the upcoming 1939 World's Fair. In the sky above, the structure is a flying man soaring towards the golden clouds.
Tell him the dream is over. Tell him Howard Hughes said so.
The sky blackens, and the flying man bursts into flames. To interior hangar day, Peevy stares dumbfounded at a slip of paper.
300 gallons? We don't burn that much in 2 years.
You burned it in 2 seconds when my fuel truck went up.
Didn't blow up your truck. The guy in the car did.
Yeah, after bouncing off you, pilots are responsible for a safe landing. You know that.
Where are we gonna get this kind of dough, Bigelow? The GB scrap.
Look, fellas, I hate to kick you when you're down, but business is business. I'm out of pocket here. Of course, I could always use the old clown act.
We don't do that anymore.
Sure we do. $15 a show, right?
10. 5 goes against your bill.
Cliff and Peevy exchange a look. What choice do they have?
It's up to you, boys. See it my way or see me in court. Clown suits in the storeroom. First show's at 9. Don't be late.
Bigelow exits.
Lousy nickel nurser.
Cliff, are you off your nut? Doing the clown act means going up in May. She's a flying coffin, you said so yourself.
I'll go real easy on her. She never let us down before.
He takes out the photo of Jenny, grins, and sticks it into the standard instrument panel.
The number 5 piston shot. There's more split baling wire here than airplane.
I can fly a shoebox if it's got wings.
He hops into the cockpit, sinks into the seat, then leaps up in a painful surprise, holding his rear.
Oh.
What?
Ugh.
With some tugging and pulling, Cliff manages to dislodge something wrapped in a gray duffel bag from under the seat.
What you've got there?
Oh, but it's heavy.
Cliff carries the bag to a work table and sets it down with a thump.
That's my duffel bag.
Cliff pushes the fabric down, revealing the bag's contents. It's an amazing device with a double-cylinder design, gray steel and chrome, sleek and ominous. There are straps folded tight and buckled in place. Cliff and Peevy gaze at the thing.
Odd-looking contraption.
I suppose it is.
Cliff uncoils and runs cable. It's about the length of his arm. At the end of the cable is a weird metal T, like a flat bracelet, and on that is a red button. He presses it. With an enormous blast of flame, the device roars and leaps out the table and on a rush of superheat air. Peevy is knocked to the floor. Cylinder bullets towards the roof. It smashes through a thick rafter, bounces off the ceiling, and zooms back to the floor. In a screaming shower of sparks, the rocket ricochets off the steel tool cabinet. Its trajectory carries it straight through the outer wall of the hangar's small office. Terrified, Cliff and Peevy peer through the hole into the office. The rocket is half embedded in an easy chair, vibrating as its powerful engine continues to spit fire. They duck into the room, shying from the intense heat of the flame. Using a mop handle, Cliff manages to reach the control bracelet. He punches the red button and the rocket shuts off, leaving our two heroes stunned and gasping for breath. Cliff reaches out to pull the device from the chair. I think we lost Rudy.
Are we lost? So we're on page 18 of the PDF.
Careful.
Yeah.
Careful.
Cliff yanks back his fingers, then them again to gingerly touch the housing. His eyes widen.
The shell's still cool.
They cautiously approach the rocket and each grab a side, then pry it out of the easy chair, carrying it back to the workbench. They deposit the rocket gingerly, handling it like a key of dynamite that might go off. They gaze at the thing in wonder, circling the table slowly, trying to see some sense into the thing.
Never seen nothing like this. It burns alcohol. What's the damn thing for?
There's a dawning awareness in Cliff's eyes, a hunch too crazy to ignore. Without saying a word, he steps to the table and slips his arm through the first strap. Then he slips his other arm through the second strap. He straightens up, and the thing is now seated on his back. The last thing he does is snap the buckle over his chest, securing the harness. The purpose of the thing is clear. Cliff and Peevy are too stunned for words. Cut to exterior Chaplain Field Flight School desk. The sign on the building reads, Lucky Lindy's Flight School. On the lawn in front stands a life-size wooden statue of Lindbergh himself. The statue is shaking from side to side, accompanied by the sound of sawing wood. We hear a sharp crack, and the statue topples out of frame. We hear Cliff and Peevy scurry off into the desk. To exterior Hollywood Hills house desk. Packed in the flagstone courtyard before a large Mayan-esque house, a pair of black Cadillac sedans glittered like beetles. Two grim-faced, broad-shouldered men wait by the autos. Angry words filter down from above. The two men look up towards a second-story window where silhouettes move across the drawn blind. Interior mansion library desk.
So what you're telling me is that you failed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Broader angle reveals his sumptuous surroundings. He stands framed against the open balcony door, wearing a silk shirt casually undone, balancing a glass of champagne in one hand, while incuriously posing a gleaming sharp fencing sword in the other. Across the room stands Eddie Valentine, compact and stuck in a pinstripe suit, a bright red rose in his lapel. Spanish Johnny and Rusty lean against the wall, a study in nonchalance, their eyes taking in the tall man's every move.
Oh. What I'm telling you is the feds showed up like flies at the barbecue. One of my boys got iced. The other's at County General in intensive care.
He decides to talk. It could be awkward for us both.
Tall man moves nimbly across the room, parrying and thrusting, pressing the attack on the visible enemy.
I'm paying you too much for things to go this wrong.
You ain't paying me enough to keep me in the dark. This was supposed to be a simple snatch and grab, like stealing candy, you said. You ain't never said nothing about no feds.
The tall man pauses and blinks in quiet amazement at Eddie's mangling of the language.
Quadruple negative, how extraordinary.
He sips his champagne and whisks the air with his sword, loosening up another offensive across the room.
The feds are the least of our concerns. We have to find out what happened to the rocket.
Wilmer's the only one that knows that for sure.
And we shall have to ask him.
You kidding me? The hospital's crawling with cops. We can't get near the place. Maybe later when the heat dies down.
This is a luxury I lack. If you can't get to Wilmer, then I'll have to handle it myself.
Oh, how's that? Stroll in with a bouquet of flowers?
Flowers. Yes, how thoughtful.
Eddie looks at him like he's nuts. The tall man presses the attack again, parrying and thrusting back across the room. Spanish Johnny and Rusty follow him with their eyes.
Look, I got half a mind to pull out. My boys are getting bloody on this, and I don't like it.
Tall man stops with a flourish, takes another sip of champagne. He never spills a drop.
What you fancy has no bearing here. You'll live up to your contract, or I'll find another small-time hoodlum who can.
Yeah? Well, what I don't fancy is talking any more crapola off of limey fruitcake like you.
Tall man's eyes flash in anger. Whoosh. Eddie suddenly finds the glittering point of the sword pressed to the hollow of his throat. Eddie's men go tense, hands poised near their coats, ready to go for their guns. The tall man's eyes are blazing, lethal, capable of anything. A heartbeat away from murder. We see for the first time how truly dangerous he is. Eddie stares back, his gaze unyielding.
If we find the rocket, consider your price doubled. Fair?
Fair.
The tall man smiles. He shifts the point of his sword to the rose in Eddie's lapel. With a quick upward flick of the wrist, the rose goes sailing through the air. He flies across the room right into the Spanish Johnny's hand.
Good evening, Mr. Valentine.
Eddie frowns, then exits with his men. The tall man's eyes glisten with content. He briskly crosses the road and picks up the telephone. He starts to dial a number.
Bloody amateur.
Interior, dingy room night. In dark there's a cot, a wash basin. A small shaving mirror on the wall is cropped. The room is lit by the dim glow of a Philco playing Amos and Andy. Somebody or something is sitting in a frayed easy chair with his back to us. Other laughs, somewhere between a low growl and a death rattle. The telephone rings. Lother shuts out the radio with the hand and the size of a skillet.
Yes?
That job we discussed, I'd like you to visit a friend in the hospital. A condolence call. Room 502, County General.
Dear Beanfield night. The headlights of a Peevy's truck illuminate and a metal stake been driven to the ground. There's a long chain attached. Cliff pounds the stake home. Camera pans to the chain to reveal the other end, nailed to Lindbergh's wooden chest. The rocket pack nests on Lindy's back. Peevy starts to unspool a large roll of wire attached to the ignition switch. They scurry to a nearby ditch and exchange a look. Peevy connects the two ends of wires. The rocket roars. They duck. Lindy takes off. The chain snaps taut. Suddenly the statue is flying in a great wide circle at the end of the tether. Cliff and Peevy share the exhilarated grin.
I weren't seeing it. I wouldn't believe it.
The stake begins to loosen.
Peevy, the stake!
Cliff moves to get up. Peevy pulls him down.
That chain will cut you in half.
We're gonna lose it!
With a final shudder, the stake uproots. Lindy rockets into the night sky. The rocket flame gets smaller and smaller and finally fades into the blackness. Gone. Cliff and Peevy leap out of their tread and stand gazing up at the night sky. A strange metallic moaning approaches from above. The 25 feet of chain slams into the dusty earth between them.
Holy hell!
We lost it. Should anchor it to the truck.
My truck would be halfway to Cincinnati by now, you chowderhead.
They pause, hearing the sound of something hurtling back to earth. Whistling like a bomb, they throw themselves to the ground as Lindley dive bombs them from behind. It misses them by inches and slams into the ground, plowing a furrow in the field and coming to a stop. They race over and shut the rocket down. It sputters in silence.
Peevy, you'd pay to see a man fly, wouldn't you?
I know what you're thinking, Clifford. Forget it.
Peevy grabs Lindy's feet to tug him out of the furrow. They just start to carry the statue towards the
We're
truck.
not talking about some real money here. Not $10 a show, but enough to get us back on our feet and into the Nationals.
Cliff, your eyes painted on. That thing's like strapping nitro to your back. Besides, the feds are mixed up in this.
Yeah, thanks to them, we're flying the clown act and scraping for nickels. They owe us.
Well, maybe They don't see it that way. Look, we're just a couple of sky bums. I don't want to get tangled up with the FBI.
Well, I don't want to keep it. Just borrow it for a while.
You do it? Well, if you borrow something and don't tell anybody, they call that stealing.
Just a week or two. As soon as we can afford a new plane, we'll give it back, I swear.
Peevy shakes his head, far from convinced.
Did you see what this thing just did? You want to turn your head into a plow? The thing don't work.
Well, you're always telling what a genius you are. Fix it.
Gonna need a hell of a lawyer.
They throw Lindy into the truck, revealing his completely splitted head.
I think we need a helmet.
Interior apartment night. Tight angle on a gorgeous female leg. Delicate hands slowly draw a sheer silk stocking up to the length of the leg, revealing a dazzling topography of curves and skin. We travel over a bent knee and come to the thigh so beautiful it could induce a heart attack. As the stocking is clipped to the garter, we tilt up to introduce Betty Blake. 24-year-old and blazing beauty. She leans into the mirror and applies lipstick. She turns her head to the sound of a horn honking. Her friend Irma, applying mascara, peers out the window. You're muted.
Whose is it?
Yours. Betty smiles quickly, smooths her skirt into place. Exterior boarding house night. Cliff gets out of his truck and makes his way to the door of the boarding house for young actresses. Girls are waiting outside for their dates. Cars pull up and depart. Cliff crosses the courtyard, flirting shamelessly all the way. He knocks on the door. It is open to Miss Pye, stone-faced, matronly woman. Cliff gives her his best behavior smile.
Good evening, Miss Pye. Come to pick up Betty.
He starts forward. His pal places an improbable palm on his chest.
Shit. Sorry, computer was dying. You know my rules. No gentlemen after 6 p.m. Oh boy, that's a man. Sorry.
I'm no gentleman.
You can say that again. This time, don't forget the curfew. I lock up at 11 sharp.
Okay, Warden.
Betty sweeps out and gives Cliff a chest peg on the cheek.
Night, Mrs. Pye.
Have a good time, dear. If he tries anything, deck him.
The door slams. Now that Miss Powell's gone, Betty throws her arms around Cliff's neck and gives him a real kiss. He holds the kiss and holds it until they both become aware of the appreciative hoots and catcalls from the other girls. Cliff breaks his kiss and grins. Off they go. Calling Cliff and Betty.
Cliff, guess what? I think I got the part.
That's great.
I won't know for sure till I get to the set tomorrow, but the director liked my reading best.
I mean, you have lines this time?
Just one, but it's to Trevor Sinclair.
Well, let me hear it.
She throws his head back and gives it all she got.
Oh, my prince, would that you drink of my lips as deeply.
And he kisses you, right?
Nah, he's too busy killing someone.
She realizes he's jealous. She suppresses a smile.
Now you tell me.
What?
What do you think? The GB, the maiden voyage, how did it go?
Oh, okay, I guess.
That's it? Okay, I guess. How'd she fly?
She flew great. Landing had a few bumps. Got some bugs to work out. Hey, look at the time. We gotta hurry if we're gonna catch the movie. I hear a new Cagney picture opened.
So did a new Trevor Sinclair picture.
Oh, Betty Cagney's better. You won't catch him lounging around a penthouse in his underwear or walking poodles in the park
Or getting shot down behind enemy lines.
What?
The movie, Wings of Honor, Trevor Sinclair.
This I gotta see.
Interior movie theater night, backlit by the flickering glares of the projector. Cliff and Betty make their way down an aisle. They stop at the end of the row. Cliff is loaded down with popcorn and sodas. They squeeze down the row towards an empty seat. A newsreel is in progress.
While as rumors of war haunt the continent, Herr Hitler claims to be working for world peace and the sovereignty of nations.
The newsreel shifts to a shot of a zeppelin descending enormously from the clouds of New Jersey, a bold swastika on its tail.
And just to prove he's a swell guy, here comes the Fuhrer's latest goodwill gesture, the mighty airstrip Luxembourg, on a coast-to-coast friendship tour of the United States.
Cliff and Betty settle in and divvy up the snacks. The image cuts to a shot of Zeppelin captain and his crew on the ground, mingling with excited crowd.
First stop, New Jersey, where the locals turn out in droves to greet Captain Heinrich and the crew.
The airman hands out candy bars to the children.
Winning friends the old-fashioned way with good German chocolate.
The captain turns and waves to the camera, grinning boldly.
Welcome, boys. Look us up when you get to Hollywood.
Interior hospital corridor night. A nurse steps from a room and shuts the door. A uniformed cop sits at the station, listening to a mystery show on the radio. Spooky music, crackling doors, hollow laughter.
How's he doing?
Give him a sedative. He'll sleep like a baby.
Interior hospital room night. Homer has heavy traction, lies dozing in bed. Spooky radio organ music drifts into the room as a monstrous shadow looms on the wall. Something crouches on the edge outside the window. The window slides open, breeze billowing the curtains. The other slips silently into the room. He is intense, twisted. As he approaches the bed, he cracks a match with his thumbnail, holding it close to his face. But the flame also illuminates Logan. Distended jaw, flat cheekbones, heavy ridge above his brows, sunken eyes. Mother clutches one of Vilmer's traction cords and gives it a sharp yank. Vilmer's groggy eyes flutter open. His pupils dilate in horror.
Huh? Who's that? Who's that? It's you. Tell your boss I don't answer to nobody but Eddie.
Mother eases his massive hands beneath Vilmer's body, then lifts his easily.
Okay, he's off. I pulled a switch, see? I got the dingus stashed good. At the airfield. Hangar 3. Some old plane.
A horrible shadow is thrown on the wall, writhing Vilmer in the purposeful grin of the massive ape man.
No, don't! Ah!
Nurse station. The cop and the nurse at first think the screams come from the radio. Then it goes to a commercial and the screams continue. They realize. The cop shoulders the door open, revolver drawn, the nurse right behind him. She screams. Vilmer hangs suspended above the bed, dangling from the traction gear, body bent in half, eyes dead and staring. The cop rushes to the open window where the curtains flutter like ghosts. Exterior hospital window night. The cop peers out. Nothing. He pulls back into the room. On the ledge above, a massive pair of wingtop tips shuffle off into the night. Cut to exterior Bulldog Cafe night. Butch, a bulldog, waddles down a sidewalk at a fast trot. Clamped in his jaws is a soup bone. Butch climbs into the porch of a diner near the airfield, the Bulldog Cafe. He settles on a worn rug and gnaws the bone. True to its name, the cafe resembles a white and black canine, sitting on its hunches. There is a tobacco pipe in its mouth, and the door is in the dog's belly. Interior Bulldog Cafe night. Linoleum counter, worn leather stools, cozy boots. Famed photos of and other aviation mementos hang on the walls and ceilings. A chalkboard lists the day's special. Millie, the owner, prepares food at the grill. Among tonight's regulars are Skeets, Goose, and Malcolm. Cliff and Jenny occupy a booth.
And then, get this, fellas, at the end of the movie, he flies over the enemy trenches and drops a bottle of champagne.
Let me guess. It hits the general and we win the war, right?
The
It
flight.
was- It was symbolic. He was being chivalrous.
Where to get it? The champagne, I mean. They didn't have liquor stores in the front.
Oh, not that I can recall. Would have been nice.
It doesn't matter where he got it. The point is, oh, forget it. It was so romantic, Millie. I cried and cried. Neville was wonderful.
Neville. Guy's never been up in a plane, much less flown one.
Who cares? He's a living doll.
Patsy's Millie's 10-year-old approaches Malcolm. She has a tin airplane with a broken wheel. Malcolm, the wheels come off. Let me see, Princess. We'll fix her up. I have to tell you about the time I got shot down by the Red Baron. Patsy nods her head empathetically. She catches the side of Millie, who pointedly shaking her head no with a be polite glare. Patsy intensely shifts gears and starts shaking her head no as Malcolm looks up. No? Well, there I was, flying patrol over the drain, when all of a sudden he come screaming out of the sun, gun blazing. I tried to loop, stuck to my tail like a dirty diaper. Before I knew it, my bird was shot to tatters. I must have fell half an hour. And then the troublesome wheel pops out of the mountain's gas and shoots over his shoulder to land with a splash in Jenny's suit. The droplets spray all over her blouse.
Bullseye, Ace.
I'm sorry, Jenny. Jenny dabs at her blouse with a napkin as Cliff fishes the wheel from the soup.
That's okay, Malcolm. Elegant dining here at the Bulldog. Once in a while, it wouldn't hurt to try a new place away from the airfield.
What'll it be, the Copa or the Brown Derby? Well, the South Seas Club while you're dreaming.
Yeah, someplace an actress can get noticed.
I can get skinned. With the cost of desserts in one of those joints, I could overhaul an engine.
I'm not saying all the time.
Jenny sighs and takes her hand. There's a look on her face that Cliff can't resist. He smiles, and she smiles back.
Okay, how about this? We'll have a real night out on the town after you win the nationals.
A hush descends. Millie and the others trade uncomfortable glances. Cliff hasn't told her. He nods unconvincingly. You're flying in the nationals after all? I'm glad to hear it, after that landing today.
How about a warm-up, Malcolm?
Jenny looks uncertainly at Cliff.
You said there were a few bumps.
Boy, I'll say, you should have seen it. Folded like a kite when she hit the pavement. We thought old Cliffy's number was up. What with the fire and all. Millie finally whacks him with the spoon. He suddenly abruptly looks up at the other faces and suddenly realizes how badly he stepped in it. Jenny glares across the table at Cliff.
Just gonna tell you.
When? After the milkman found out?
Jenny, losing his plane isn't something a pilot goes bragging about. I don't want to spoil our evening.
That's very thoughtful. Thank you. You'd rather make a fool out of me.
I'm sorry.
I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to stop treating me like I am a china cup. Cliff, when something goes wrong, I should be the first to know, not the last.
Honey, everybody else knows because they were there.
I had an audition. It was important.
Yeah, just like the time I flew the regionals. You had a big part. You stood behind Myrna Loy with a bowl of grapes.
Jenny throws the napkin down. She leans up and grabs her purse.
Night, Millie. Thanks for the soup.
She goes out. Cliff sits there, all eyes on him, hating himself for blowing it so badly.
Well, go after her, you dope.
From the table and goes out the door. Exterior Bulldog night. Cliff runs out in the street just in time to see Jenny hop in a bus.
Jenny!
The bus pulls out. Cliff runs after it, but it disappears down the street. He comes to a stop. Malcolm walks up next to him. Cliff, I'm sorry. I really put my foot in it, didn't I?
That's all right, Malcolm. It's not your fault.
Cliff walks back to the bulldog, leaving Malcolm standing in the street alone. Exterior, Cliff and Peevy's house, night. Moonlight washes across the lawn of a small, well-kept house. Interior, Cliff and Peevy's night. Peevy's building on the dining room table, which is covered with tools, rivets, and scrapes of metal. Dance music comes from a nearby radio. Cliff enters and throws his jacket. He crosses the phone.
You're home early.
He had a 7 a.m. call.
Uh-huh. What was the fight about?
I don't know, Peeve. I can't figure her out.
The telephone rings and rings on the other end. Cliff hangs up.
Maybe she just needs a little time.
Don't give her too much time.
Cliff goes down the hallway.
Somebody's gonna figure that girl out.
Peevy continues to work. What's it up? Interior, Cliff and Peevy's living room dawn. Same angle. Peevy dozes in an easy chair in the foreground. Dead air comes from the radio. Clad in a worn bathrobe, Cliff shuffles towards the kitchen. He switches the radio off and throws a blanket over Peevy. Cliff crosses to the table. Amidst the debris is something covered with a large polished cloth. He removes the cloth and whistles softly. The helmet is finished. Aerodynamic fin curves from the helmet's crown. Amber lenses are set in the eye sockets and vents are cut into the mouth area. Cliff holds the helmet up at arm's length. It catches the morning sunlight with a burnished glow. Interior Castle Day. 2 expert swordsmen are locked in a mortal combat. Sir Alec of Trent is dressed in the finery of English court, with a red rose in his tunic. The Black Hawk is dashing in form-fitted black, a thin mask over his eyes. Trevor Sinclair. The Black Hawk breaks Sir Alec into a stone column and knocks his weapon to the floor. Sir Alec finds himself with the glittering point of the hawk's sword pressed at his throat.
What? Kill me as I stand? I thought you were a sporting man.
True. I would hate to stain my legend on a villain such as you.
Smiling, the Black Hawk shifts the point of his sword to the rose of Sir Alec's tunic. He flicks the rose into the air. It sails into the hands of a beautiful noblewoman. The Black Hawk flips Sir Alec's weapon back into his hand with the toe of his boot. The duel resumes. The Black Hawk pursues Sir Alec up the winding stone stairway. At the top, 3 guards appear. 2 more guards advance up the stairway, blocking the hawk's escape.
You should have killed me when you had the chance. Prepare to die. That way, we may learn the true identity of the Black Hawk.
Why wait?
He rips his mask off, a collective gasp from the noblewoman. It's Sir Reginald.
None other.
Sir Reginald thrusts out his sword, stabbing Sir Alec, and Sir Alec falls into the castle floor below. His troops rush Sir Reginald, who grabs a lanyard anchoring a chandelier and swings in a graceful arc to the banquet table below. He sweeps up a goblet of wine and downs it in one gulp. The noblewoman rushes to his feet. Oh, Prince, would that you drink my lips so deep? They should not be.
Cut! Cut!
The place intently becomes a movie set. Director descends on the noblewoman.
Honey, you're a lady of the court, not a barfly from Philly.
Victor, how many times are we going to do this?
Now look, acting is acting like you're not acting. So act, but don't act like you're acting. Get me?
Angle over to Jenny and Irma, who are both dressed as a servant extra. Irma rolls her eyes. Oh, that is me too. Fuck. Boy, oh boy, is she a block of wood? Your audition was so much better.
Irma, everyone's audition was better.
I hear tell she's producer's of niece, so to speak.
So she gets to play a scene with Trevor Sinclair while we play background scenery. I love Hollywood.
Cliff wanders into the soundstage past a group of costume extras. He looks around, trying to adjust the gloom.
All right, everybody back to first positions. Let's see if we can get it right this time.
Looks for Jenny, tripping over cables, bumping into C-stands. This is an alien place to him, as strange as the moon.
Quiet on the set. We're rolling. Sword of the Hawk, scene 114, take 28.
And action!
We hear clashing swords and scuffling feet scenes continue off screen as Cliff wanders the dark labyrinth of set walls and equipment. He finds himself in another room of the castle. On the set, it's Sir Reginald.
None other.
Oh, it's Nobleman. I'm so sorry. That was not me. Sir Alec falls. Sir Reginald swings and sweeps up his goblet of wine. Everyone on the set has their eyes on the blonde from Philly, praying to God she gets it right this time. Sinclair drinks. The director is out on his chair with his eyes glued to the blonde as she dashes to the table. Cliff leans against a stone wall, only to discover it's nothing but a plyboard flat that topples slowly. On the set, the girl from Philly says her lines, this time to everyone's amazement. She's fantastic.
My prince, would that you drink of my lips as deeply.
The director and crew were coming out of their skins with joy, and Sir Reginald leaps off the table into the midst of the palace guards suddenly.
Heads up.
The castle wall tears loose. People dive out of the way as it splits and topples to the floor. Cliff slowly around and finds about 100 people staring at him.
Sorry, is Jenny here?
Director knows it. He loses it now. It means a stroke for sure. So intense he forces a big smile, painfully calm.
Jenny! Is there a Jenny here?
Jenny raises her hand. She likes to crawl into a hole to hide. The director motions Cliff to her direction. Please, be my guest. Cliff walks towards her.
Hi.
Sinclair is helped to his feet by a swarm of crew members. He deflects their concern with good humor.
I'm all right. I'm fine. Never let it be said that a Trevor Sinclair performance failed to bring down the house.
Everyone laughs. The AD goes to Sir Alex.
Charlie, you can get up now. Charlie?
Charlie groans and rolls over.
Oh. Somebody call the nurse. Somebody's been stabbed. Charlie's been stabbed.
The crew rushes over. Sinclair and the director push their way through the crowd. Sinclair kneels by the wounded man.
Charlie, my God, forgive me. I had no idea.
Was I stealing the scene?
Sinclair jumps to his feet and takes charge.
John, use my car and driver. Get Charlie to Queen of Angels. Gladys, you ride along with him. I'll have my personal physician meet you there.
A flurry of activity. Sinclair pulls the director aside.
Trevor, I'm sorry.
Next time, find me a worthy adversary. As for Jenny, is it? I want that bitch banned from the lot.
Sinclair waves warmly at somebody and moves off. Director motions for his AD, Cliff and Jenny.
I feel bad about last night. I came to see if we could patch things up.
By knocking down half the castle wall? What do you do for an encore?
You're always saying you're the last to know. Well, I came to tell you something. It's important.
So's this acting job.
Acting, honey, come on. You're walking through scenery.
That's not fair. This is a good job. The director thinks I've got talent.
Why didn't you get the part?
Everybody was told no visitors on the set. You're off the picture.
Jenny shoots Cliff a furious look, then storms off. Cliff races after her. He catches up to her in front of a freestanding section of the castle wall and whirls her around.
You got me fired.
In a couple of weeks, it won't even matter. Look, Peevy and I got something up our sleeves, a surefire deal. It's a whole new way to fly without a plane.
Oh?
I'm on the level. Look, we got our hands on this gizmo. It's like a rocket. You strap it to your back and fly like a bird. I'll tell you, this will put us on easy street.
Great. Drop me a card when you get there. Just leave me out of it.
She stomps away as two grips enter and grab sections of the wall. Cliff checks with his watch and hurries off. The grip lifts the section of the wall and carry it away, revealing Trevor Sinclair in his canvas chair. Stunned by what he's overheard, he ditches his cigarette, tosses his copy of the Variety, and lunges from his chair. He races after Cliff, who is striding away with his back to us. Sinclair is slowed down by the chaos of the soundstage. Cliff keeps wiping from view as actors, crew, set pieces cross in front of Sinclair. Sinclair plows through the confusion, trying to keep Cliff in sight, but obstacles keep appearing in his path. A stuffed horse wearing a battle armor is wheeled before him. He fights his way around it. Cliff is nowhere to be seen. He's vanished. Sinclair runs to the open soundstage door. He looks up and down the street. No Cliff. Damn it. He rushes back to the set, where the castle wall is being hoisted into place. Jenny is gathering up her stuff when the director sees her.
Hey, honey. Yeah, you. I thought you got your marching orders. Get the hell off my set!
Ah, Victor, you were young once. Mistakes do happen. Can't you find it in your heart to give the lady another chance? Please, for me?
The director pauses, surprised at first, then figuring he's been had, he gives Sinclair a big smile.
Trevor, anything for you.
The director turns and mutters to his AD.
Son of a bitch set me up so he could score points with the toots.
Jenny and Sinclair.
Mr. Sinclair, what a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure is entirely mine.
He kisses her hand. Every bit of the European gentleman. Jenny is in a daze until she gets prodded in the ribs by Irma.
This is my friend Irma.
Sinclair has trouble taking his eyes off Jenny.
Hello, Emma.
Charmed, I'm sure. Irma does a graceful fade, but stays in Jenny's line of sight, frantically pointing at Sinclair and wildly mouthing words, Trevor Sinclair. Jenny keeps her composure.
Please don't think me forward, but I couldn't help noticing you earlier.
You and everybody else.
No, it's your face. It captures the light in an extraordinary way. Have they asked you to read for the part of the Saxon princess?
Behind Sinclair, Irma is becoming progressively more unglued and egging Jenny on. Jenny keeps a poker face.
Why, no.
Well, I'll see that they do. I think you'd be marvelous.
Mr. Sinclair, I don't know how to thank you.
You can start by calling me Trevor, and then you can agree to dine with me this evening.
Irma's eyes bug out. She mimes a scream. Jenny doesn't blink.
I have a regular table at the South Seas Club, unless you're bored with the South Seas.
Why, no. I think it's divine.
I can count on you then?
Irma is coming out of her skin, mouthing, yes, yes.
Of course, I'd love to, Mr. Trevor.
Irma goes nuts, miming a heart attack. Sinclair glances back, but Irma instantly snaps into a composed posture and gives him a warm smile.
Well, tonight then.
Off he goes. Irma rushes to Jenny. Oh, honey, the South Sea clubs with air.
All right, let's have atmosphere back on the set. Move it.
Irma is coming out of her. Oh, wait. Is that the same twice?
Oh yeah, you can skip that repeat.
Okay. Exterior Chaplain Field Day. Planes war overhead. The ground and the stands are packed with spectators. Reporters and newsreels record the action. The Jenny is being wheeled out onto the field. Angle over to Bigelow and Peevy. Bigelow's fit to spit nails.
What's wrong with that kid? I told him 9 o'clock. Peevy, do you know where he is?
He'll be here.
If he ain't in the air in 5 minutes, the deal's off. You boys can clear out your hanging.
Peevy checks his watch as we angle over to Malcolm, holding a bag of programs and wearing a cap with programs, 5 cents, stitched on the crown. He frowns with concern, having overheard Bigelow's threats. Malcolm hurries off. Meanwhile, behind the bleachers, Spanish Johnny, Rusty, Jeff, and Mike await Eddie Valentine, who approaches from the parking lot.
Well,
I know, but Wilmer told. Oh God, I can't do that. I know, but Wilmer told me Sinclair's goon, but the rocket ain't in the hangar 3.
There was an old plane, all right, but the only thing in it was this.
He hands Eddie the autographed photo of Jenny.
nice. But that's it?
We searched the place from hell to breakfast.
So start over. Check every building, every shed, every peanut wagon, and keep your eyes peeled for this dame. Maybe she knows the guy who found our package.
Okay, Mr. Valentine, let's go, boys.
The air show continues as the planes rocket overhead. Cliff pilots his motorcycle through the crowd and stops by hangar 3. As he leaps off, Peevy runs to him.
Bigelow spitting nails. Where you been?
I had to see Jenny. Give me a second to get that stupid clown suit and I'll
He is interrupted by a cheer from the stands and the announcer voice over the PA system.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Here comes Fearless Freak, aviator extraordinaire, ready to dazzle you with an exhibition of razor-sharp flying.
It flies overhead, weaving and dripping precariously. The crowd laughs with delight.
Well, who the hell's in Miss Mabel?
Programs, get your programs. Cliff and Peevy Cliff and Peevy whip their heads around. Patsy's working the crowd, lugging Malcolm's heavy bag and wearing his cap, which hangs over her ears. Cliff and Peevy exchange stunned looks, then turn back towards the sky. Interior standard day. Malcolm in the clown suit and red rubber nose gasp in sheer terror, white-knuckling the stick as he fights for control. Exterior Chaplain Field Day. Cliff and Peevy head for the grandstand.
Is he crazy? He hasn't flown in 25 years.
If he drifts into the race lanes, he'll kill somebody.
Exterior Observation Platform Day. Bigelow watches from the deck, perplexed and angry.
That's not the routine. What the hell is Secord trying to pull?
He turns as Cliff and Peevy step onto the deck.
Well, who's in the...
It's Malcolm.
Holy. Signal the standard down, now.
Exterior Standard Day. The standard drifts into the path of 3 oncoming racers. The two lead pilots barrel away in the different directions. The third plane climbs hard on Malcolm, yells with panic, and jams his stick forward and to the side. The Standard heels over. Exterior observation platform day. The flagman signals frantically as the Standard drives directly at him. Everyone hits the deck as the plane roars past, clipping the banner from the observation deck. The Standard climbs, engines sputtering and trailing smoke.
That piston just gave out.
Cliff sees Peevy's arm and speaks in a low, intent voice.
Hey, where'd you stash it?
Stash what?
You know.
In the tool chest? Why?
He turns, but Cliff is gone. Peevy sees him dashing towards the hangar. Interior Standard day. Malcolm is overcome with terror as he flips the controls. Exterior one-way day. Peevy dashes across the one-way. Interior hangar day. Peevy races in. He finds Cliff struggling with the rocket harness.
The hell do you think you're doing?
What's it look like? Give me a hand with this thing.
But we ain't had a chance to test her right.
Cut it out. I'm scared enough as it is.
Cliff heads for the rear doors of the hangar.
Okay, listen, I reworked throttle. Just give her pressure like a gas pedal. You want to shut her down, punch the button, and let go.
Anything else?
Peevy yanks a wad of gum out of his mouth.
Yeah, little luck.
He slaps the gum onto the top of the rocket ejector housing. Cliff puts the helmet on his head and buckles the strap.
Well, how do I look?
Like a hood ornament.
Exterior hangar day. Cliff steps out of the hangar door, sets his feet, takes a deep breath, aims his gleaming helmet towards the sun, and punches the button. Kablam! The Rocketeer shoots into the sky. The concussion knocks Peevy off his feet and sends his ass over tea kettle. Exterior grandstand day. The Rocketeer zooms over the grandstand. The astonished crowd cheers, then shrieks and ducks as the flying man whistles over the heads like a torpedo. Barely in control, Cliff aims himself skyward. Eddie reacts in excitement. Newsreel cameras swing frantically to follow the action.
Tell me you're getting this.
I'm getting it. Whatever it is.
Exterior sky cap aerial sequence day. Cliff blasts by a racing plane and goes after the smoking Standard, but can't stop himself in time and smashes headfirst into the underside. His helmet head erupts through the floorboards right at Malcolm's feet. Malcolm screams in terror. He rips the control stick right out of the Standard floorboard and bashes himself between the eyes with it. He slumps forward unconscious. Dangling wildly from the bottom of the plane, Cliff manages to pry the helmet out of the hole. He drops free and slams into the landing gear, holding on for dear life in the split stream. Cliff reaches out and grabs the lower wing. He manages to climb onto it. He inches towards the cockpit, holding onto the ring struts. He tries to rouse Malcolm, out cold. The Standard ring dips sharply. Cliff falls back and slides on his ass down the length of the ring into empty space. Cliff hits the rocket and zooms back to the plane. He grabs onto the fuselage. The rocket thrust pushes him inexorably head first towards the wing propeller. The toe of his boot hooks the open cockpit and halts his progress an inch from the blade. The fin of the helmet sparks as the edge of the propeller strikes it. Cliff shuts the rocket down. The plane abruptly lunges towards the trying to stand on its tail. Screaming, Cliff strides down the length of the Standard and smashes through the rudder, ripping half of it clean off. Cliff plummets to the free fall, vanishing into a cloud. A moment later, the cloud illuminates with a flash of rocket ignition, and the Rocketeer soars free, climbing towards the heavens again. Cliff reaches the Standard and grabs the cockpit. The plane hits the apex of its climb, stalls on its tail, and drops back forward towards Earth. Cliff rides spiraling Standard towards its doom. He struggles frantically to unfasten Malcolm's seatbelt.
Malcolm, wake up! Wake up!
Malcolm comes around, which only makes things worse. He panics and screams, finding the Rocketeer.
Don't fight me, damn it! It's me, Cliff.
But there's no reasoning with panic. Malcolm rams the control stick back, pounding Cliff in the head. The world spins crazily. The ground spirals up to meet them. Moments away, Cliff head butts Malcolm unconsciously again. He throws his arms around him from behind.
Come on, you tub of guts.
He punches a rocket, blam, and whips Malcolm out of the standing seat and all. They punch through the top ring in a shower of shattered wood and canvas an instant before the standard hits ground zero, which in this case is Bigelow's brand new fuel tank. Airplane and truck goes up in an enormous explosion that rocks the airfield. On the ground, Bigelow watching, just about to swallow his cigar. Cliff seems to rocket out of the blossoming Hall of Fame. He dips over the cheering spectators and deposits Malcolm on the runway. The Rocketeer blasts off again as the crowd goes crazy. Malcolm comes to, stunned to discover himself safely on the ground. He sits on the runway, still strapped into his standard seat, wondering how the hell he got there. Reporters start jolting up to the best angle to take his picture. Malcolm grins and raises the control stick above his head as flashbulbs pop. Peevy and Bigelow whip around as the Rocketeer roars overhead.
Sister Mary Frances, what I wouldn't pay for that act.
$500 a show.
Oh, easy.
We'll take it.
Bigelow shoots him a stunned look. He realizes Peevy's just negotiated a deal. Peevy runs towards the truck.
Do you mean to tell me that
You don't know who he is. That's part of the deal, understand?
Peevy hops into the truck and peels out after the Rocketeer. Angle over to Eddie and the boys piling into their cars, also after the Rocketeer. They pull forward, honking at the crowd, blocking their way. Exterior phone booth day. Angle over to the mob and reporters swarming to the payphones, trying to call the story in. Fistfights are breaking out.
You heard me. Hold the front page.
That's right, a flying man. And I got the pictures to prove it.
At the third phone booth, an elderly Spencer on the phone to her sister.
Hello, Louise.
A reporter pulls her out of the booth.
Pardon me, Toots. Your time's up.
Exterior sky aerial sequence today. A puffy white cloud floats serenely in a brilliant blue sky. Cliff suddenly bursts through, trailing wisps of vapor. He lets out a howl of pure joy.
Yeah.
This is total freedom. Boundaries all gone, as close to the heavens as anyone can get. Cliff sees a plane ahead. He hits the thrust and soon finds himself pulling alongside a Mercury Airway trimotor. He cruises past the windows as astonished faces press against the glass, pointing and gawking. A pretty stewardess peers out. Cliff raises his hand and gives her a bold salute.
Whoa!
And spirals wildly out of control, dropping like a stone. Exterior road day. Peevy races the truck down a dirt road, his eyes rivet to the tumbling speck in the sky. He veers sharply onto another road. Exterior farmhouse aerial sequence continues day. As Cliff drops towards a farm below, he pulls out of it at the last moment and roars along about 5 feet of the ground, scarring a woman hanging laundry and ripping a sheet out of her hands. Exterior orchard day. Cliff trasses wildly, trying to get the sheet off his face as he rockets through an orchard and upsets a pair of wooden ladders. Fruit pickers are left hanging from the branches, gaping after ghostly apparition. Cliff finally gets free of the sheet. He tosses it aside and screams as he sees exterior cornfield, Cliff's point of view day, hurtling towards a fence bordering a cornfield. A giant furrow chews from one end of the cornfield to the other as Cliff plows unseen through the stalk. Scarecrows uprooted and sent splittering into the air. 2 good old boys sitting on the fence exchange a slow look.
Big gopher.
Exterior dirt road day. Bursts from the cornfield and finds himself on a collision course with Peevy's speeding truck. He veers in one direction and Peevy veers in the other, spinning out. Exterior duck pond day. Cliff skips across the surface of a pond like a stone. The Rocketeer, bold maiden flight, ends rather ingloriously as he crashes into a thicket of reeds. Peevy jumps from the truck and races over, expecting to find Cliff dead. Instead, he finds him sitting in the streaming water.
You damn fool. You had to show off. Lucky you didn't break your neck. What were you gonna do? Fly to Paris? How much fuel do you think that holds?
Peevy removes the helmet. Cliff is grinning ear to ear.
I like it.
For a moment, Peevy stares at him. Then the success of Cliff's flight sinks in. The old mechanic grins back. Peevy extends a hand and pulls Cliff to his feet. Whopping Cliff picks up as a bear hug.
Put me down, you lunatic.
Cliff drops him with a splash. They fall silent, serious.
How was it, kid?
Closest I'll ever get to heaven.
Gotta work on those landings, though.
They start back to the truck and turn at the sound of cars approaching. Eddie and his men.
Must be the newsboys. You really put on a show.
They can't find out who we are. Whoever owns us will want it back, and I'm just getting a hang of it. Let's get out of here.
Cliff starts to shrug out of the harness as Peevy hops behind the wheel and turns the key. The engine grinds, refusing to start. They throw a panicked glance at the approaching sedans. Cliff tosses the helmet on the passenger seat and hops into the truck bed. He bends over the cab.
Peevy, toss her in neutral.
Puzzled, Peevy does. Cliff braces himself against the back of the cab.
You steer, I'll push.
You what?
Peevy's words vanish in the rocket's roar and the truck blasts down the road at an incredible speed. It's all Peevy can do to keep it on the road. The sedan swerve to a stop, abandoning the futile chase. Eddie and the others pile out in the fire-breathing pickup trucks, recedes in the distance.
Take this down.
Johnny starts scribbling.
SJ257.
He sees Mike, who watches the distant smoke trail and munches on popcorn. Eddie gives him a look and slaps the box out of his hand.
Let's go.
Interior Bigelow office day. Bigelow faces a mob of jousting reporters and shouting questions.
How about some background on the flying man? Yeah, where'd you find him? What's his name?
Sorry, fellas, trade secret. Besides, it's part of the mystery. Let's just call him a Rocket Boy.
Nah, that's lousy. What about Human Rocket? That's worse. Missile Man? Stinks. Come on, Mr. Bigelow, give us a better name.
Bigelow's mind races. He gazes out his office window and sees the Pioneer Petroleum billboard.
How's about Rocketeer?
Rocketeer, that's swell. Great handle. Rocketeer it is.
Newspaper insert. A newspaper headline comes spinning out of the void and slams to a stop. Who is the Rocketeer? Interior soundstage day. The paper is held by two hands. We dolly around to reveal Sinclair. His eyes bulge and veins pulse. Dazed, he lowers the paper. Interior office desk. A different newspaper slams onto the desktop. Rocketeer saves pilot. Tilt up, bully and flinch, entering the room like a couple of kids being called before the principal. They carry an object bundled in a dirty old blanket. They lay it on the desk before Hughes. Hughes tosses the blanket back and stares at the charred, twisted rocket salvaged from the fuel truck explosion. He abruptly pushes the object to the floor. Charred pieces go flying. A cast metal brand name bounces across the floor and comes to a stop next to Flitch's shoes. Hoover.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Due to the diligence of the FBI, this vacuum cleaner did not fall into the wrong hands.
Exterior curved somewhere in Hollywood night. A bundle of newspapers slammed to the pavement. A newsboy slits the twine and begins selling them as fast as he can hand them out.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Man flies without plane.
The foreground on his motorcycle. He grabs the paper, smiles as he reads the headline, and stuffs the paper into the saddlebag and drives off. Exterior Afield night. A car screeches up. Wooly and Flinch jump out and go to Bigelow's office. A light burns inside. Wooly knocks.
Mr. Bigelow, FBI, we'd like to have a word with you.
No answer. The feds exchange a glance. Wooly tries the knob. The door creaks open. They enter cautiously. Interior Bigelow office night, and they find the place ransacked. Drawers empty. Papers everywhere. A single desk lamp provides illumination on the desk. In the pool of the light sits a small pad of paper. Wooly trips over something in the dark. He swings the desktop around.
Mother of mercy.
Fletcher's approach and looks down. Bigelow's lying dead on the floor, eyes glazed and bulging. Next to his face is his foot.
He's been folded in half.
Wooly spots a pencil gripped in Bigelow's lifeless fingers.
He was writing something.
The men turn back to the notepad on Bigelow's desk. Wooly squints at the pad, tilting it towards the light. Indented numbers and letters take form. 1635 Palm Terrace. Exterior Cliff and Peevy's house, night. Penciled on the sheet of the paper torn from Bigelow's pad is the same address. Thick fingers crumble the paper, then a huge shape moves silently from view to reveal Cliff and Peevy's house. Interior Cliff and Peevy's kitchen, night. Peevy sits at the kitchen table, the rocket packed before him. The helmet rests on one side, its dent smoothed out. Peevy puts the finishing strokes on the annotated schematic drawing detailing the pack's working. Peevy inserts a funnel into the rocket fuel ports and tops off its tank with alcohol. Then he hears a creaking from the back of the house. Tensing, he stands, the rocket in one hand and the ball-peen hammer in the other.
Cliff?
Exterior Cliff and Peevy's house, night. Cliff pulls up on his motorcycle with newspapers under his arm. He starts up the porch. A heavy crash, breaking furniture and shattering glass is heard inside. Cliff drops everything and grabs the doorknob. It is locked.
Peevy!
Cliff pounds on the door, then pushes against it. The door does not move. Interior Cliff and Peevy's house, living room, night. Peevy picks himself up from the floor and wide shadow looms above him. He flings the hammer with all his strength. The ducks effortlessly. The hammer sinks past his head and bashes into a mirror on the wall, sending glass across the living room. Lola steps towards the old mechanic. Peevy backs against the fireplace, looking about for a weapon. He seizes a large air race trophy from the mantel and throws it like a harpoon. The trophy strikes Leather between the eyes with a heavy. The huge assassin staggers back towards the front door. He shakes his head like a dazed bull. As Cliff continues to pound frantically on the door, Luther looks at Peevy and gives him a cold grin. Exterior to Cliff and Peevy's house, night. Cliff is set to burst the door down with his shoulder when it swings open. He is yanked in and thrown across the carpet, where he lands on a coffee table. Peevy jumps on Luther's back. The giant thug grabs Peevy's collar and tosses him aside. Peevy lands on an easy chair, which topples backwards with the impact. Exterior Cliff and Peevy's house, night. Several carloads of police and FBI pull up into Cliff and Peevy's lawn, their headlights off. Flinch, Wooly, and two other agents hurry onto the porch. Same location. Cliff tries to get up. He is grabbed by the face and lifted off the floor. Luther shakes Cliff like a rag doll. The pilot's feet dangle above the carpet.
Where is it?
Where's what?
The rocket!
Looking past Lothar's shoulder, Cliff spies the rocket pack on the end table with the fringe shade the quick-thinking Peevy had set on it. The pack resembles an Art Deco lamp.
Sure you got the right house?
Snarling lifts Cliff off the floor, jamming his head through the lath and plaster ceiling. Exterior, Cliff and Peevy's house night. Lothar and Cliff are suddenly blinded by the headlights' glare.
Secord? Peabody? Open up, FBI.
Lothar throws Cliff aside, draws twin 45s, and begin blasting through the door. Exterior, Cliff and Peevy's house night. An agent standing next to Flinch is blown off the porch and hits the ground dead. Flinch, Wooly, and the other G-men scramble and dive for cover. Tommy guns and pistols are yanked out, and a flurry to return fire begins. Interior, Cliff and Peevy's house night. Bullets splinter the house. Cliff and Peevy are flattened on the floor. Lothar ignores them, fires, and moves with the combat precision around the house. Lothar spots the back door. He makes his getaway through the kitchen. Peevy rocket diagram catches Lothar's eye. He snatches it from the table and stuffs it in his pocket. Exterior, black porch night. Wooly stands at the door, ready to rush through it when suddenly the door bursts free off the frame. He is slammed to the ground as Lothar escapes through the alley. Wooly tries to rise from under the door. Two more pair of feet stomp across. Carrying the helmet and rocket, Cliff and Peevy jump in a hedge and disappear into the darkness. To Interior South Seas Club. A clarinet fills the stream and delivers a high, sweet cascade of notes. Pull back to reveal the band leader, clarinetist, as he leads his big band through an upbeat, rousing intro. On the stage is a large clamshell opens. A beautiful female vocalist emerges and begins to sing a sultry torch song. Pans around to reveal the decor is deco-tropical. Full-size palms and glowing lanterns. Sarong-clad cocktail girls wear gardenias in their hair. Pools of rippling water reflect shimmering patterns. A live mermaid smiles at patrons from a circular aquarium. The music swells. Exterior South Sea Club's night. The hottest spot in town. Tuxedo doormen amid the Hollywood gentry, while photographers and autograph hounds jostle for the position at the velvet rope barricade, rubbernecking each new arrival. A black limousine purrs to the curb. A uniformed valet rushes to open the door. Jenny Sinclair proceeds up the carpeted walk. Sinclair is impeccable in a black tie and tails. His girl on his side has been poured into a stunning evening dress. Sinclair fans beside him for autographs. An autograph book gets shoved into Betty's hand. She starts to pass it to Sinclair, but
Not him, doll. You.
her face lights up. Delighted, she signs the book and hands it back.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Sinclair sweeps her into the nightclub. Interior South Seas Club night. The matron d' leads Betty and Sinclair across the club. Betty takes in the surroundings with barely concealed awe. Sinclair is nodding and tossing an occasional wave of greeting. They arrive at their table. As Betty's seated, W.C. Fields, martini in hand, passes by.
Trevor, you old scoundrel. Fall off any chandeliers lately?
Hello, Bill. Miss Betty Blake. May I introduce Mr. W.C. Fields?
Fields takes her hand, gently clicking his heels.
Charmed, my dear. Doubly charmed.
Monk appears and whispers discreetly in Sinclair's ears.
Forgive me, Jenny. I think that's your name. I've received an urgent call. I won't be a moment. Bill, look after the young lady.
Thought you'd never ask. Scram.
Interior Eddie's office night. Eddie, agitated, peers out the window overlooking the club. Stevie's at the desk, missing a bicarb as he talks on the phone.
Yeah, okay, so long. Spanish Johnny, he's checking on the hatched house where the flyers hang out.
He hands Eddie the bicarb. Eddie downs it in one gulp. Sinclair enters. Eddie belches, glares at him.
Having a nice time, Sinclair. Service all right?
Get to the point.
Eddie slaps a newspaper onto the desk. Who is the Rocketeer?
I got my boys tearing down a part looking for this rocket head, and you're out stepping with some dame.
That dame happens to be the Rocketeer's girlfriend.
Eddie blinks in surprise. He peers out the window into the club.
Holy crap. It's Lady Luck. Why'd you bring her here?
Because time is short. The clock is ticking. I'll do whatever it takes to get my hands on that rocket.
Like having your goon break my man in half?
Just covering my bases. That's an American expression, isn't it?
That ape of yours lays a finger on any more of my men without my say-so. You'll wind up kissing fish under some pier. Another American expression.
One word from Wilma to the police would have hung us both. Are you too stupid to see that?
You don't know who you're dealing with, Buster.
Of course I do. A small-time hood who made the big time by rubbing elbows with stars like me and catering to our whims. Don't ever forget your place in the scheme of things, Eddie.
Sinclair crosses to the door.
Now, do as you're told, or I'll demolish your shabby little empire with a phone call. I want that rocket, tonight.
Sinclair exits. Eddie is left glaring across the desk.
Boss, I promised my girl I'd get his autograph. This a bad time to ask?
Eddie stews for a moment, then snatches up the newspaper and hurls it at him. At 2, exterior bulldog night. Giant bulldog sits serenely in the moonlight. Warm light spills, inviting through the doors. Malcolm comes hurriedly up to the bulldog and goes inside. The camera booms up and pushes in towards the giant bulldog's head. Inside, a radio plays. Interior bulldog head night. Cliff and Peevy huddle over a small table in the attic. A radio sits on the table between them.
Moments after the daring rescue, the masked hero has yet to step forward and identify himself, but Air Circus owner Otis Bigelow promises his Birdman will return. Until then, all of Los Angeles is buzzing. Who is the Rocketeer?
Peevy turns off the radio.
Cliff, there's only one way out of this. Call the FBI and give the rocket back.
The FBI just tore our house in half. They think we were shooting at them. They'll lock us up.
But that gorilla tried to kill us. Whoever these people are, they're playing for keeps. I'm telling you, somebody's gonna get hurt.
There's a pounding from below. Cliff and Peevy hurry to the trap door, throw the bolt and lift it. Millie and Malcolm are below. I just came from the airfield. It's Bigelow.
What about him?
His office is crawling with cops. Somebody tore up the place like they were looking for something. They killed him. The news hit Cliff hard. Millie looked scared.
Cliff, what's going on?
I'll make the call.
Interior Bulldog Cafe night. Cliff and Peevy descend the ladder. Cliff walks to the phone. Having just heard the news, Goose and Skeets watch him solemnly. Cliff picks up the receiver. Malcolm exits.
Operator, please connect with the FBI at Los Angeles.
Exterior Bulldog Cafe night. As Malcolm walks back towards the airfield, 2 shiny black sedans pull up in the shadows. Interior Bulldog Cafe night. Cliff stands at the payphone as it rings at the other end. Suddenly, the bell over the door jangles as somebody enters. Cliff turns. Spanish Johnny, Busty, Jeff, and Mike amble in. Expensive suits, shine shoes, an air of casual violence beneath their smiles. Cliff feels their eyes on him as on the line a voice answers.
Federal Bureau of Investigation, Agent Gorman speaking.
Yeah, I'll be home soon, honey. Love you too.
Who is this?
Cliff hangs up, giving the gangsters a bland, pleasant smile. Moves to the counter and sits painfully casual. Millie, thinking quickly, places a plateful of food before him. Peevy sits at the counter next to Skeets and Goose.
What can I do for you, gents? We're looking for a pilot named Cliff Secord, ma'am. Anybody here know him?
Millie looks at the pilots who say nothing.
Haven't seen him around.
We need a flyer for a real special job. There's a lot of lettuce in it. Hate to see the kid miss out.
No one responds.
Tell you what, we'll lay out a little finder's fee. How about it, Dad?
It's a cord. Yeah, I know him. Little guy. Curly hair. Didn't he move to Cincinnati?
Spanish Johnny leans down, putting his face an inch from Cliff's.
What's about you, Bob? You know this Secord? Hey, if you boys aren't going to order, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Johnny turns to Millie, fixing her with a cold stare.
Oh, shit. Well, order those pies look good. They homemade?
Johnny suddenly seizes the rack of pies from the counter and sends it crashing against the wall. Cliff and the others scramble to their feet, but find themselves gazing down the barrels of the guns that materialize in the gangster's fist.
Don't interrupt his meal.
Yeah. I like coffee with my pie.
Johnny throws a full carafe against the wall, spraying glass and hot coffee across the flyer's photos.
It's funny. I just don't care for music when I'm digesting.
He fires 2 rounds into the radio.
I'm telling you, we don't know where he is.
Johnny contemptuously wipes his hand on the counter towel, nodding slowly.
Okay, Dad, maybe we can refresh your memory.
He nods to Rusty, who seizes Peevy from behind, twisting his arm. Rusty drags him to the counter, then goes behind it to the grill.
Talk, or you get a facial.
Drop dead, weasel.
Rusty grabs Peevy by the back of the neck and shoves his face slowly, exorbittantly towards the grill.
Leave him alone.
Cliff gropes on the counter behind him. He winds a ketchup bottle, grasps it, and suddenly finds Mike's gun in his face. Mike yanks the bottle from Cliff's fingers.
Naughty boy.
Peevy's face is inches from the sizzling grill. Rusty turns to the flame.
Sorry. You're starting to smoke, old timer.
Cliff cannot bear it a moment longer. He is about to blurt out a confession when
Hold it.
Rusty keeps a firm grip on Peevy, but lifts his face from the grill. Johnny walks towards Cliff, then past him to the phone. The wall against it has numbers scrawled across it. Johnny pulls Jenny's autographed photo from his pocket and compares it to the name on the wall. Jenny. On both photo and wall, the name is written with a heart around it. Johnny grins.
Hey, look at this, boys. Lady Luck left her phone number.
Johnny picks up the phone. Cliff and the others watch, holding their breaths. Interior boarding house tonight. The hall telephone in the stage club rings. Irma comes out her door in a bathrobe and curls. Hello? Interior Bulldog Cafe night.
Hello, this is the florist. I have a lovely bouquet for Jenny, but I can't read the address.
It's the stage club on Coanga.
Oh, yes, we're all the actresses' room. I know it well.
Westy snickers. Who's sending flowers?
Let me see.
Stage club night?
Cliff Secord.
Is that right? Well, he's too late. She's gone to the South Seas Club with Mr. Neville Sinclair. Hello? Bulldog night.
Rusty, this'll slay ya. Guess where the dish went? She's with the Limey at the South Seas Club.
Cliff shoots Peevy a desperate look.
Think Fancy Pants is pulling a fast one on Eddie?
I don't know. I don't like it. You guys stay here. Watch who walks in. We'll call from the club. Let's go.
Spanish Johnny and Westy exit. Mike saunters to the counter and sits. Steals himself a donut. He plays with the lever action on the gun as he spins on the counter stool. Jeff, gun held loosely, strolls along the wall of photos. The tension gets thicker by the moment. Jeff pauses at a picture of Peevy in his early flying gear.
Swell outfit, Dad.
Jeff moves closer and closer to a prominent picture of Cliff and Jenny. Millie's hand goes to a large skillet on the grill. Cliff braces himself on the counter. Peevy gags at distance to Mike and his gun. The tension is so thick you can cut it with a knife. Jeff starts to move on, but pauses, staring more intently at the photo of Cliff and Jenny, embracing in front of the standard.
Hey, there's Mr. Ketchup Bottle. That's quite a doll you got there. Wait a minute. That's Lady Luck. So that makes you...
He turns to see Cliff, fist coming right to his face. All hell breaks loose. A series of quick cuts follow. Cliff bounces the thugs off the wall with a flurry of punches, while Mike jumps from the stool, donut in mouth. He levers his gun, but Peevy grabs his arm from behind and wrenches his aim towards the ceiling. Skeets jumps on his back. Mike fires with blasting holes in the ceiling. Cliff finishes Jeff off with a roundhouse punch that spins him around and sends him crashing to the floor. At the counter, Millie swings an iron skillet and does a Babe Ruth on the back of Mike's head. Mike crumples like a sack of beans.
Dirty bastards!
Skeets picks up a gun and holds it on a moaning Mike.
Oh...
Millie, I'm sorry about this. I'll take care of everything, I promise.
Cliff races up the ladder and hurries through the trap door. Interior Bulldog Diner storeroom night. In the tiny storeroom of the Bulldog head, the rocket sits next to the rickety table. Cliff seizes the machine and swings it on his back. Peevy hands wrap about Cliff's wrist.
Cliff, no, not again.
Look, half the city's looking for us. I can fly to that nightclub in 5 minutes, and nobody can follow me.
Take a cab. The only place that rocket's going is straight to the feds. We agreed.
Peeve, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you from the start. But Jenny's in trouble now. And that girl means more to me than...
Cliff searches for the right words. He suddenly feels very helpless.
I love her, Peeve.
She know that?
Cliff and Peevy's eyes meet.
I don't know. She's going to.
Promise me one thing. When she's safe, we give this damn thing back.
Brother, you got my word. I'm sorry I ever laid eyes on this thing.
Cliff slams on his helmet and races out onto the upper deck.
I'll meet you back here.
Peevy wrinkles his nose, smelling something. He glances at the floor and sees a trail of splattering fuel, leading right up to Cliff, who stands ready to blast off.
Hold it! You're leaking fuel all over the place. Touch that button, we all go up.
Peevy rushes over and fingers a crease in the rocket's housing.
Got a ricochet. Must have ruptured a fuel tank.
Can you patch it?
Yeah, if I had 2 hours.
Peevy, we've got minutes. We need something quick.
Peevy pauses, mind racing. He sees the rod of good luck gum stick to the top of the rocket injector housing.
About a little luck.
Peevy jams the gum over the fuel leak. Being overly cautious, he closes the door to the upper deck. Cliff aims his bronze face towards the sky.
Stand clear.
Peevy opens the door and sticks his head out.
What's that?
As Cliff punches the button, Peevy gets knocked on his ass once again and slams into the shelves of canned goods as the Rocketeer streaks into the heavens like a shooting star. As Peevy picks himself up from among the cafe's supplies, a massive 5 automatic drifts from his shadows and levels itself straight at him. The hammer cocks back with a soft click. Peevy freezes and raises his hand. Chinese theater, night. A ceremony is in progress. Searchlights scan the sky. Limousine lines the curb. Stars and fans pack the forecourt.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the lovely Betty Davis, who will become part of Hollywood history by leaving the prints of her hands and feet in our world-famous courtyard of the stars.
On the theater roof, a spotlight man notices a fiery streak in the sky.
What the heck?
He swings the heavy light on it, pivoting, attempting to spot the streak in its huge beam of light. Exterior night sky. As he streaks over Hollywood, Cliff is suddenly blinded by a shaft of light. Exterior Chinese theater, night. As the excited spotlight man tries to track the Rocketeer, his foot slips over the edge of the roof. He stumbles, slides down the steep roof, and rolls over the brick, hands crawling. His fingers seize on a gutter, and he hangs precariously over the forecourt. Down below, all attention centers on the roped-off pad of wet cement.
Oh, thank you. It's a great honor to be invited here tonight. I have all of you to thank, all of my lovely fans.
She's interrupted by a scream.
Oh my God, look up there.
All attention shifts to the spotlight man dangling from the theater's main tower. The other spotlights sweep over to illuminate him. Helpless, the spectators hold their breath. Then the man's fingers lose their desperate grip. An explosive roar thunders down from above. The crowd gasps in horror as the man drops towards the pavement. The Rocketeer's path is drawn by a fiery trail as he scoops up the falling man just before impact. Barely managing the extra weight, Cliff swoops low and drops the man safely to the ground. He executes a loop and lands proudly, feet spread, hands at his side. The crowd goes berserk. Every spotlight, camera, and eye is on the Rocketeer. It's his best landing yet, except that his feet are planted firmly in wet cement. Recognition ripples through the crowds.
It's him! The Rocketeer!
Let me through. Press. Move it.
Mr. Rocketeer, who are you? Where do you?
Cliff's moment of glory is short-lived. The excited crowd surges forward. A panicked Cliff blasts off in the night sky. The rocket thus carves a crater in the cement between his footprints. Bette Davis grabs a pencil from the reporter. She reaches down and quickly etches the Rocketeer in the cement.
Miss Davis, Miss Davis.
Yes.
Would you step aside, please?
Flustered, the actress moves to one side. The reporters air their camera. Flash bubbles explode as the cement slab is photographed. Interior South Seas Club, night. A flashbulb pops as a camera girl snaps a shot. We pull back to reveal Betty and Sinclair posing for their picture. A waiter pours more champagne. Sinclair is watching Jenny. She's aglow, intoxicated by the setting, the glamour, most of all, by his warm, attentive smile.
It's all so elegant.
Not nearly as elegant as you. You look positively radiant, and that dress is stunning.
Jenny blushes, soaking in the compliment, then leans forward confidentially.
I borrowed it from wardrobe.
Claire laughs.
They tell me Marlena Dietrich wore this in Desire.
I thought it looked familiar. It looks better on you, but don't tell Marlene I said that.
Not a word. I have a confession to make. I lied to you. I've never been here before.
I know.
You don't mind?
I'd be disappointed if you had. It would deprive me of the look in your eyes. To you, and the extraordinary way your fame catches the light.
Jenny just melts through the floor as she sips her champagne. Sinclair can't take his eyes off her. There's definitely a spark there.
You must let me have this dance.
Jenny looks around, confused. The band isn't playing.
But there's no music.
Really? I hear music.
He takes her hand, pulls her gently but firmly to her feet, and walks her out onto the vast, empty dance floor. People start to notice them, and a hush falls. Jenny looks around, self-conscious. He takes her in his arms and starts to dance. By now, the place is so quiet you can hear a pin drop. All we hear is the whisper of the shoes on the dance floor. Up in the balcony, the follow spot operator turns on his lights. He pins them in the beam, follows them across the floor. Backstage, the band leader peeks through the curtains to find out why everything got so quiet out there. Break time's over, boys. The musicians ditch their cigarettes and straighten their ties. They take to the stage, pick up their instruments, settle in. The band leader raises his clarinet, looks over his shoulder to gog at the dancer's tempo, and starts the band into a soft, romantic ballad.
You see? It worked.
Jenny feels lightheaded. There was either the most embarrassing moment of her life or the most romantic. Other couples start drifting onto the floor, joining them.
You have a dream, Jenny. You must act on it. Dance, and the world will follow.
She lays her head on his chest, and she gets swept away in the dance. Exterior, alley in Hollywood, night. A flash of light, a dropping shadow, smoke drifts through the air. The Rocketeer peers around the corner. In the foreground, removes his helmet and pulls the folded duffel bag from his jacket. Exterior, South Sea Club's night. Cliff approaches the club, carrying the rocket and helmet in a duffel bag. He stares at the crowded club entrance. Only black ties and evening gowns are getting in. Cliff glances at his own meager clothes, then hurls around the corner. Interior South Seaside Sea Service hallway. Night. The sound of breaking glass. Cliff shakes through a hole to a transom window and pushes the latch over. He opens the window, drops inside, and finds himself in a service hallway. Busboys pass in the foreground. Cliff ducks into a laundry room. He finds washing machines, sinks, racks of Raiders uniforms. No windows, just a laundry chute, beneath which lies 2 large sacks of dirty laundry. Cliff grabs an empty sack off the shelf, wrestles a duffel bag into it, and adds it to the 2 laundry sacks on the floor. Interior, South Sea Club, night. Cliff exits the kitchen through the swinging door, wearing an ill-fitted busboy's uniform over his own clothes. He moves self-consciously into the club, looking for Jenny's table. He suddenly sees Jenny and Sinclair on the dance floor, still in the spotlight, the center of attention among other couples. Cliff's jaws tighten. So that's how it is. The song ends and dancers applaud, mostly for Sinclair and Jenny. Sinclair escorts her back towards their table. The band goes into another dance number, and more couples drift to the dance floor. Jenny and Sinclair sit down at their table. Jenny seems pensive, a bit melancholy.
Is it something I said?
It's nothing.
Jenny, I know that look all too well.
I'm sorry, Trevor. Cliff and I talked about coming here so often. Well, I guess I did most of the talking. And now that I'm here,
Well, we could still make dinner at the Brown Derby.
They both laugh. Jenny is grateful for the understanding.
Tell me about him. Give me a chance to know my competition.
Jenny looks at Sinclair, trying to discern how serious he is being.
well, he's a little rough around the edges. He can be pretty thoughtless sometimes. Then he'll turn around and be the sweetest guy in the world.
Jenny shows Sinclair a charm bracelet on her wrist. She picks out a tiny silver orange.
He gave me this little orange when we met. My family has a small ranch, and Cliff came through town dusting the groves. Dad was broke, but Cliff helped us out anyway. And he gave me this little pilot when I complained he wasn't around enough.
He's a flyer.
Jenny nods. She searches for a little silver plane on her bracelet.
He flies a racing plane like this one. At least he did until yesterday. There was an accident at the airfield. Cliff was almost killed.
Jenny's really starting to miss the guy. Sinclair takes Jenny's hand in his and leans over the table, studying the miniature GB.
Really? What happened?
Suddenly, a bowl comes down in front of Sinclair. He glances up.
We haven't ordered anything.
Yes, sir. Compliments of the house. The owner insisted.
Another empty bowl comes down in front of Jenny. She looks down. A piece of paper torn from the menu lies in the bottom of the bowl. On it is written, "Meet me by the big fish. Now." Betty looks up. She can't believe her eyes. It's Cliff glaring at her and motioning towards a large sculpted dolphin surrounded by thick foliage. Jenny draws her hand away from Sinclair as if from a hot poker. Cliff ladles hot soup into Jenny's bowl, covering the note.
Go on. You were saying the accident at the airfield.
Jenny shoots Cliff a furious look. He's motioning vigorously towards the dolphin as he fills Sinclair's bowl.
It's kind of silly when you stop to think about it. He missed the airstrip altogether. Hit the only tree for miles around. It's surprising the real pilots let him use the runway.
Cliff clenches his teeth. He gives Betty a desperate look.
I see. I'm already feeling better about the competition.
Jenny smiles sweetly at Sinclair. Cliff eyes Sinclair with a wide look. Cliff continues to place glasses and silverware on the table while pleading with his eyes for Jenny to get away. Sinclair peers at Cliff. Something familiar about this guy.
Have you worked here long?
Yes, sir. I waited on you last time. You're with the redhead with the very nice.
Sinclair and Jenny exchange an embarrassing glance. Cliff shoots more frantic looks at Betty, trying to signal her. Away from the table, she shoots them right back, drop dead.
Look, just bring us 2 menus for now and send the captain over.
Cliff is tired of having his signals ignored. He picked up a champagne bottle and pointedly misses Jenny's glass, pouring icy champagne onto her lap. She lets out a yell and jumps to her feet. So does Sinclair.
You idiot!
I'm terribly sorry, sir. Let me get somebody to clean this up with.
Cliff heads off on his route to the dolphin sculpture, sickly Betty as he does.
I'm sorry, darling.
Excuse me, Trevor. I will be right back.
Jenny hurls off towards the ladies' lounge. When she's sure that Sinclair isn't watching, she heads for the island of foliage around the dolphin. When she gets near, Cliff's hands reaches out and yanks her in. She lands on top of him, and they both fall to the floor. Betty gets to her knees and angrily pushes him away.
Are you out of your mind? What are you doing here?
You just listen for a minute.
You're jealous. You found out I was here with Trevor.
Betty, Bigelow's been murdered.
Murdered?
Remember what I told you at the studio? The rocket we found. Look, the people looking for it killed Bigelow to get to me. And now they're after you. They've got your picture. The one from the GB.
Cliff can see from Jenny's face that she doesn't know if she believes him.
Honey, get ready for a shock. I'm the Rocketeer.
The Rocka who?
Haven't you seen the papers?
I've been locked away on a soundstage all day.
It doesn't matter. Just get in the cab and go to your mom's in Redlands. Stay there until you hear from me.
Jenny searches Cliff's eyes. She wants to believe him.
Give me one good reason why I should believe a word of this.
Because if anything to happen to you, I go out of my mind. I swear to God, I would.
Oh.
That was the last answer she expected, and that works. Cliff grabs her and kisses her hard. Releasing her, he glances over her shoulder and sees Spanish Johnny and Rusty enter the club. Cliff drags Jenny down as the two thugs walk to the head of the steps overlooking the dance floor. Rusty is standing about 4 feet above Cliff and Jenny, looking around the room.
That's them. The ones with the snapshot.
Rusty and Spanish Johnny stroll down the stairs into the dance floor, casting watchful eyes through the crowd. The dance floor is crowded with happy, swinging couples.
Go, right now.
What about you?
I'll be okay, I promise. Just go on. I'll call you as soon as I can.
She clings to him another moment. Then, giving him a brave smile, she rises and makes her way towards the main entrance. Cliff parts from the foliage to make his gateway, then sees Rusty and Spanish Johnny looking at Sinclair's table, talking to him. Sinclair looks anxious around the room. Cliff sinks back and watches. Jenny fights the crowd at the coat check. She waves her ticket, keeping an anxious eye for the two men.
My rat, please.
Exterior South Seas Club night. Lothar steps out of a cab and heads for the entrance, pushing through a group of Hollywood gentry. The bouncers blink, none daring to question the grotesque henchman. Interior South Seas Club night. Jenny finally gets her wrap and heads for the doors. She exits just as Lothar comes through the other. Patrons give the giant startled glances and a wide berth. As Cliff watches, Sinclair gives orders to Rusty and Spanish Johnny. They leave to do his bidding. The import of what he has just seen shows on his face. Sinclair? After the rocket? Cliff leaves his hiding place and hurries to the stairs and almost runs face to face into Lothar. The giant ape man lets out a low animal growl and starts for Cliff. Cliff turns, dashes back down the stairs and into the dance floor and disappears into the crowd of dancers. Lothar chases him, bowling people over, using screams and curses. Sinclair looks up at the disturbance and sees the head and shoulders of his henchman, cutting a wide stack through the crowd. Interior kitchen night. Cliff barges through the swinging doors, nailing a waiter with a tray. Dishes go flying. Lothar comes through a beat later like an express train. Interior laundry room night. The door bursts open and the breathless Cliff races into the room. He slams the door and bolts it. He turns and looks to where he has hidden his duffel bag and its precious cargo. Where once had stood 2 laundry sacks, 20 more had joined them. In desperation, Cliff dives onto the pile and frantically tears them through them. A heavy thumping is heard on the door as Lothar tries to break in. Exterior, South Seas Club night. Betty stands at the curb outside the club. A cab pulls up. Betty heads for it. Somebody beats her to it. Another cab arrives. She makes a beeline for it, but a couple gets there first. Interior laundry room night. The door bursts open, torn from its hinges. Panting, Lothar charges in like an enraged bull. The room is empty. No Cliff. Laundry everywhere. Lothar starts tearing through the piles and paws. Lothar spots a pair of boots in the laundry chute. He makes a grab for them. Lothar is blown off his feet by the rocket's blast as Cliff blasts up the chute. Interior ladies' lounge night. In the ornate lounge, several women check their makeup in the mirrors. A towel girl hands towels to the ladies from a low cart and drops the ones used down at the chute.
This place is really going to the dogs. A few minutes ago, I saw a couple making a whoopee in the bushes. Ooh.
There's a rumble in the wall behind them. The laundry chute door bursts open with a clang as the Rocketeer's helmet smashes through. The women scream as Cliff flies from the chute and lands on top of the society matrons, pinning her to the cart in a rude sort of missionary position. Rocketeer, screaming women, and carts go blasting out of the room under rocket power. Interior South Sea Club night. The cart bursts through the lounge doors onto the upper mezzanine, bowling over a couple of men waiting for their dates, and plows through the tables. People dive out of the way as society women kicks and screams. The cart slams to a stop against the railing, ejecting Cliff out over the club. The society matron sails onto one of the full-size palm trees, which gives way at the base, depositing her in one of the pools of water. Barely under control, Cliff zooms over the heads of the musicians, bouncing off the wall, ricocheting across the room. Astonished patrons yell and scream, some diving for cover. A few stand at point at Cliff.
It's the flying man. It's the guy in the papers, the Rocketeer.
Sinclair watches in shock as the Rocketeer makes a low sweep past his table. He runs for the mezzanine. Cliff does touch and go hops across the series of tables, scattering dishes and setting fire to napkins and tablecloths. Panic begins to break out. People lunge from their tables and stampede for the exit. Interior Eddie's office night. Eddie hears the screams and sounds of chaos. He goes to the aquarium window. All he can see is a surge of people.
What the hell?
He runs out of his office door and is caught on the flood of panicked patrons. He fights his way back towards the main room like a salmon swimming upstream. Exterior South Seas Club night. A cab pulls up at the curb. Jenny looks, not a soul around. She starts for the cab. Suddenly, the door to the South Sea Clubs bursts open and a tidal wave of people pour out. Interior South Sea Clubs night. Cliff makes another pass over the musicians, who are now trying to flee along with the patrons. He bumps the giant plaster seashell from behind, tipping it shut. 6 musicians are trapped in the mammoth mollusk, their arms and legs protruding. Sinclair is Busty and Spanish Johnny.
Get those doors closed. We'll trap him like a fly. Shoot him down now.
Spanish Johnny pulls a 45 and begins blasting away. Stevie and Mung take the shots as a signal to open fire, and lead peppers the club. Exterior South Sea Club night. Jenny hears the shots and runs to one of the porthole windows in the club's facade. At that moment, the Rocketeer whistles past. Jenny pulls away and runs for the main doors just before a slug blows the windows from the frame. Jenny reaches the doors just as they are slammed shut and locked. She tugs and pounds on the door, to no avail. Interior South Sea Club's night. Cliff walks around the club, bouncing off the walls and tearing through the decoration. Eddie's men seal off all possible escapes, trapping Cliff and about half the patrons. Cliff keeps veering off in new directions. Smoke fills the club. Eddie fights his way free of the trapped and panicked patrons and runs up to Sinclair.
God damn it, Sinclair. Stop.
Keep out of this.
You're wrecking my club.
Put it on my bill.
A stray bullet shatters Eddie's mermaid tank. Like a tidal wave, 1,000 gallons of water and a startled mermaid rides a white water cascade down the stairway to the dance floor. Sinclair steps aside, but Eddie is bowled over by the flopping mermaid. Loader comes out the service door, his clothes singed and hate in his eyes. Cliff comes swooping in under the mezzanine and slides the length of the bar, knocking glasses and bottles in all directions. At the end of the bar lies an escargot buffet table. Cliff slams into the back of a giant half-ton snail ice sculpture, tipping it the table. He sleds the snail across the floor towards the exit, hanging onto the protruding eye stalks like handlebars, leaving an icy slime trail behind him.
He's got a battering ram.
Sinclair grabs the 45 out of Stevie's hand and opens fire on the speeding snail. Bullets chew into the snail, spraying crushed ice into the air. Cliff's ice stalk snaps off. Cliff veers, swooping out from under the mezzanine and reaching high across the floor. The snail keeps going, hurtling on its own. The snail smashes through the doors, knocking them off their hinges. Patrons stream out the opening. Jenny fights her way in. She ducks in and hides behind a column, searching through the smoke for Cliff. Cliff flames himself towards the new escape route. Sinclair looks up and sees the fishnet hanging. Grabbing Monk's Tommy gun, he blazes away at the support ropes as the Rocketeer swoops to make his escape. The net falls. Cliff is snarled and comes crashing to the floor, bringing the net down with him. Cliff cuts his engine.
The rocket! Get the rocket!
Lothar converges on Cliff. Cliff thumbs his ignition button. Like a rocket-powered wrecking ball, Cliff leaps off the ground, shredded in the net, and collides with Lothar. Cliff drags Lothar around in circles on the dance floor. They roll into a tumbled stop. Dazed, Cliff struggles to his feet. Lothar grabs him in a bear hug, pinching Cliff's arms to the side. The palms fronds behind Lothar stir. Suddenly, a plaster seahorse crashes down onto Lothar's head. Jenny sinks back in the foliage. The stunned giant groans and drops to his knees. Though thickening smoke, Cliff staggers across the dance floor. Eddie's goons move in, weapons ready. As the thugs close in on him, Cliff gives his ignition button a desperate jab. The engine fires. Cliff shoots straight up and Rocket screams. At the last second, Cliff sees a skylight in his path. He instantly throws his arms over his head. The Rocketeer hits the skylight like an artillery shell. The stained glass tropical scene explodes, dropping rainbow shards on the dance floor. Rusty aims a Tommy gun through the broken skyway and stitches a line of slugs through the night. Exterior South Sea Club sky night. A bullet catches Cliff, a glancing blow to his helmet, creasing the bronze. The Rocketeer spirals way through the Hollywood sky. Interior South Sea Club night. Jenny emerges from a line of spotted palms and runs for the door. A shadowy figure emerges from the smoke and grabs her by the arm. Jenny gasps and struggles to get free. A small automatic pistol is pressed onto her ribs.
Don't go. Our evening has just begun.
Lothar appears behind Jenny and drags her off into the gloom. The giant bulldog is back in the silver moonlight. The neighborhood is dark and quiet, not a soul in sight. Cliff enters through the buck, limping the worse for wear. No duffel bag. He looks around. Nobody here. Cliff climbs a few steps into the storeroom ladder and locks cautiously into the bulldog's head.
Peevy? Millie?
Hey, Cliff. Startled, Cliff drops the trapdoor on his head and slips off the ladder, landing heavily on the cafe floor. The bathrobe-clad Patsy emerges from the shadow.
Patsy, you scared the living heck out of me.
Sorry.
Where's Peevy?
Some men took him away. Cliff looks at Patsy in shock. Suddenly, the phone jangles loudly. Cliff jumps to his feet and snatches up the receiver.
Peevy?
Wrong. This Secord?
Who is this?
Want to talk to your girlfriend?
Full of crap. She's safe out of town by now.
Yeah? Get a load of this, smartass. I promise there's a load here. Here, Betty, talk to your boyfriend.
Sorry. Can't seem to find the phone.
Betty, where are you? What are they?
Page 100.
Thank you. Page 100.
Of the PDF.
Oh, okay. Cliff, is that you?
Betty, where are you? What are they?
Ah, just a taste, lover boy. So you know we're serious.
You bastard! You touch a hair on her head, and I swear I'll.
You want her back? Bring us the rocket. Now write this down.
Cliff grabs a pencil, then a diner receipt from a spindle by the cash register.
Griffith Observatory, exactly 4 a.m. by the statues. We'll be waiting. And Secord, come alone or the girl's dead.
Eddie hangs up.
Click.
Cliff stuffs the receipt into his pocket. Patsy's frightened by the conversation she just overheard. Cliff, what's happening? What are they doing to Betty?
Quiet, Patsy. I have to think.
Patsy holds back tears. Cliff is immediately remorseful and kneels to comfort the girl.
I didn't mean to yell at you. Look, listen, can you keep a big secret? Yeah, you know the flying man who saved Malcolm today?
The Rocketeer?
He's gonna help me get Jenny back.
Patsy looked excitedly at Cliff. She dries the tears on her cheek. Then it'll be okay. I'll save her. The Rocketeer can do anything. Cliff looks at her, unsure of the answer. Can't he? Cliff puts his hands on her small shoulder, looking into her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he can.
Patsy throws her arm around Cliff's neck, hugging him tight. Suddenly, both the front and rear doors of the diner are kicked in. 4 large men with guns rush to surround Cliff. Flint steps into the wash of the light and smiles.
Remember me?
Interior Sinclair's house hallway night. Dressed in a smoking jacket, Sinclair moves down a hallway, bearing a bottle of brandy and 2 snifters. He stops at a door, smooths his hair, unbolts the lock, and enters. Interior Sinclair house bedroom night. Dim light barely defines a richly furnished guest room. Then the door opens and a bar of light falls across Sally's face. There's a gag stuffed in her mouth. Her eyes watch a man-shaped shadow crawl across the room. The lights are switched on, revealing that Jenny is sitting up on the wide, opulent bed. Her wrists are tied behind her to the rails of the headboard, and another cord secures her ankles. She is still dressed in her evening gown, her image reflected in a large, gilt-edged mirror on the ceiling. Sinclair crosses to the bedside table and sets down a tray with brandy and 2 snifters. Sitting on the edge of the bed, his cold, appraising eyes wake over the bound young woman. He reaches for her. She recoils. Smiling, he removes her gag.
Welcome to my home.
Sinclair pours some brandy and holds a glass to her lips for her to drink. She sniffs at it suspiciously.
Oh, don't worry. I wouldn't spoil a 50-year-old brandy. Go on, you'll feel more relaxed.
I always feel relaxed tied to the bedpost. Please, the ropes are awfully tight.
He pauses, considering the ropes.
We don't want to mar that lovely skin.
Sinclair releases the ropes, beginning with her wrist.
But I must warn you, if you have any amusing notions, there's a very large gentleman lurking about.
Neville, why are you doing this? What's going on?
Your fellow has something that belongs to me.
You tried to kill him.
Not I. It was Valentine and his brutes. I simply wish to make an exchange. You for the rocket, and I promise that no one will be harmed, especially you.
He steps back, smoothing his hair. A wolfish smile plays on his lips as Jenny rubs her reddish wrists.
You know, darling, I rather envy
You do.
Oh, yes, to be at the start of a brilliant career.
Me?
Sinclair gazes at her.
You have beauty, grace, and a certain raw talent. With the proper nurturing, you could become a great star.
He steps in close to her.
You put yourself completely in my hands. I could teach you, mold you into a leading lady.
He attempts to kiss her. Jenny places a hand against his chest, stopping him.
I don't understand. How does someone like you get mixed up with
That's not important.
He runs his fingertips along the straps of her dress.
You can't be comfortable in that gown.
Crosses to an armoire and opens it with a flourish, revealing a dozen negligees.
Oh, come along, don't be shy. I never met a woman who could resist a Paris original.
Jenny rises from the bed and goes to the wardrobe. She fingers the fine laces and silks.
They're beautiful.
This one, I think.
He selects a sheer black lace gown and passes it to her. Jenny holds it against her body, strutting the reflection in the armoire's mirror. He steps up behind her, eyeing her hungrily.
This is just like that scene from Napoleon's Mistress when you seduced Greta Garbo.
You've enjoyed that.
What girl didn't? I've dreamt of that scene 100 times.
Catching herself, Jenny lowers the negligee, self-consciously.
What am I saying? You kidnapped me. I don't know what to think. You've got me so confused.
Sinclair seizes her and crushes his mouth to hers. After a moment, Jenny pulls away.
Don't you want me to go put this on?
Desperately.
I'll be back.
She goes into the bathroom, leaving the door ajar. Sinclair begins to unbutton his shirt while attempting to sneak a glance into the bathroom.
Neville, would you come in here, please?
He eagerly goes towards the door. Interior bathroom night. Sinclair enters the glitz and marble bathroom. Sally's evening gown is open in the back, exposing a wedge of smooth, pale skin. She looks at him demurely over his shoulder.
I can't reach the last button.
Sinclair steps forward. Jenny suddenly turns, ripping up a perfume atomizer. She sprays him square in the face. Sinclair staggers back, eyes burning.
You bitch!
Jenny reaches for a large ceramic pitcher and brings it down on Sinclair's head. The pitcher shatters and Sinclair drops unconsciously to the ground. Sally shudders in revulsion.
I finally played a scene with Neville Sinclair.
Interior Sinclair's house, bedroom night. Jenny hurls from the bathroom. She crosses to the bedroom door and opens it silently, then slips out into the hall. Interior Sinclair's house, hallway night. Jenny creeps to the stairway landing. An escape down the stairs is impossible. Lothar sits in the foyer below, eating a plate of cold chicken as he listens to Amos and Andy on the radio. As silently as possible, Jenny moves at another door on the second floor hallway and goes in. Interior Sinclair library night. Jenny looks about, panic. She hurries to the window and opens it. Looking down, she sheer drops to the driveway below. Suddenly, there's angry voices out in the hall, quickly approaching. Turning, Jenny spies a sliver of dim light emanating from a seam in the wall paneling. She goes to it and discovers the radio room door has been left slightly ajar. Jenny slips into the cubbyhole and closes the panel. Interior radio room night. As her eyes become accustomed to the light, Jenny sees the transmitter. She quickly glances at the various documents and code books piled on the radio table. She finds a sheaf of paper clipping together. Rocketeer news clipping. Handwritten notes. Printed on the top of one paper is Ambrose Peabody, aviation mechanic, which Peevy rockets packs design, stolen by Lothar. Jenny folds the diagram and hides it in the bosom of her gown. The voices have entered the library. Desperate, Jenny seizes the radio microphone and hits switches until the transmitter lights up and static crackles from the speaker.
Hello? Hello. This is an emergency. Can anyone hear me? Please send help. I've been kidnapped.
A reply barks from the radio, a guttered German. Jenny starts realization dawning. Her eyes find the code book with its swastika emblazoned cover.
Oh my God. Neville Sinclair is
What?
She whirls to see Sinclair in the doorway of the radio room, a handkerchief held to the back of his head. Lothar hovers aimlessly at his elbow.
A spy? A saboteur? A fascist? All of the above.
Interior Howard Hughes' office night. Seated at a corner of Hughes' massive desk, with a cup of coffee and a sandwich beside him, is Peevy. Hughes is listening attentively, nodding as Peevy speaks.
So all I did was bypass the pressure valve, and that solved your throttle problem.
But adding a rudder to the helmet, that's ingenious.
Nah, just basic aviation.
The oak doors swing open. Peevy turns in surprise as Cliff is led by the agents.
Cliff, I'm glad to see you.
Same here, pal.
Fitch dumps an envelope on the desk, Cliff's wallet, coins, pocket knives, and chewing gum, and the folded diner receipt.
No sign of the rocket. He's not talking.
Hughes rises, facing Cliff.
Do you know who I am?
What pilot doesn't, Mr. Hughes?
I designed the Cirrus X-3, the rocket pack. It was stolen from my factory.
I didn't steal it.
I told him the whole deal, Cliff. He believes us. Give him the rocket.
Can't do that. Not yet, anyway.
Cliff, we agreed to give the rocket back to the right guy. That's him.
Cliff's only response is an anxious, tight-lipped stare.
Secord, I don't think you know the game you're playing. Go ahead. Roll it.
The room dims as a screen lowers and a projector flutters to life behind a wall port. A grainy, silent, black and white film unfolds on the screen. Adolf Hitler is seen shaking hands and exchanging hails with various high-ranking German military officials. The Germans are bustily adjusting to a crude rocket pack tied to a test pilot's back. The German engine is much heavier and bulkier than Hughes' design.
The German prototype had the same problem as our first design.
The Germans move back to safety as the pilot readies himself. The pilot fires the ignition button. A plume of flame scorches the ground around him as he lifts off awkwardly. 20 feet up, the rocket splutters, pitching the pilot towards the earth. The rocket fires again, slamming him into the ground.
The combustion chamber would overheat and explode. My boys finally figured it out. Double-walled chamber through which fuel is pumped. Cool the chamber and preheat the fuel at the same time.
Germans rush towards him. The pilot withers helplessly, one panting a fire. Just as the others reach him, the rocket flares once more. The Germans are blown back by its blast. The pilot spins around the ground, striking the side of the bunker. The ruptured rocket bursts into flame, engulfing the unfortunate man's tangled remains.
The German experiment didn't seem like much to worry about, but when we got our hands on this next film, we realized the scope of their plan.
The image on the screen abruptly changes to an animated map of Europe. Swarming with flying soldiers, rocket-outfitted stormtroopers, rocket men blanket the skies, flying in formation above ruins, burning cities. The unstoppable winged commandos sweep across the continent. Cliff and Peevy stare at the animated film, faces sunk. The next image is bleakest yet. A map of the United States appears, suddenly assaulted by dark arrows which spread from point east. Rocket-borne assault troops advance on Washington, D.C. As the Capitol burns, swearing flames lead up to engulf a proud federal eagle. The symbols melt like wax, then reforms as a Nazi eagle. The film ends. The screen rises out of view. All sit stone-faced. After a moment, Hughes clears his throat. He places a hand on Cliff's shoulder.
Where's my rocket pack, Secord?
Cliff stares at the floor, unable to answer.
I'm tired of square dancing with you. I can slap you around with grand theft, espionage, treason, and what else? And that's just my short list, Wooly. Cuff this punk.
They've got my girl.
Holy Moses.
Look, they've set up a rendezvous to swap Jenny for the rocket.
Cliff, I understand your concern, but you've got to let us handle this.
Look, they'll kill her if I don't come alone. And if anything happens to Jenny, I don't much care about the rest of the world. Look, I swear I'll return the pack tomorrow.
This ain't no negotiation. Those guys are playing for keeps.
I can deal with Valentine and his boys.
The Valentine's gang is only hired muscle. They work for the Nazi agent. Someone our intrepid G-men have been unable to identify.
Neville Sinclair.
What?
Sure, it makes sense. He was ordering Eddie's guys around the South Seas Club. That's why he was so interested in Jenny.
Nice try, kid. We're taking them downtown and locking them up.
Sorry, Cliff. You won't cooperate. It's out of my hands.
Suddenly, Cliff jumps onto the desk. He leaps up, grabbing the understructure that supports the large rings of the Spruce Goose model. Support wires snap. The model rides an overhead track, heading straight for the windows. Flitch and the other agents duck as the Spruce Goose smashes through the windows, clashes air, and carries Cliff away like a hang glider. Flitch and Wooly draw their weapons.
No guns.
The model carries Cliff over the ocean, disappearing as it backs away. Hughes grins as a large model soars off.
The son of a bitch will fly.
Rin has blown folded diner receipt into Peevy's shoe. Noting the writing on the back, Peevy picks it up. He reads it. Griff, Labs, 4 a.m. Cut to exterior. Exterior Griffith Observatory night. It is close to 4 in the morning as low clouds move above a sleeping Los Angeles. Diffused moonlight splashes over the white walls, curved parapets, and copper domes of the observatory. Behind the domes, the cliffs drop off sheer and straight, and city lights glimmer like a jeweled carpet. The forecourt is a dark lawn crossed by wide concrete paths. In the center of the lawn is a tall stone obelisk, is surrounded by statues of famous astronomers who stalk seldom watch. 3 Valentine gang sedans are parked at the base of the steps. Eddie, Rusty, Spanish Johnny, and several artillery grooms wait impatiently on the lawn, Tommy guns in hand. Sinclair auto rolls up. Lodar exits the car, then opens the passenger door and drags Jenny from her seat. Sinclair takes a tuxedo jacket from the back seat and hands it to her.
You forgot this.
I'd rather freeze.
Quite right. I prefer you that way.
Jenny, realizing how exposed she is in her thin dress, snatches the jacket and puts it on. Sinclair smiles and Lodar takes her to the grass. Eddie approaches Sprout.
Cheer up, Eddie. You're about to make a fortune.
Good, because I've got a club to repair, a new reputation to buy, and an ulcer to plug.
Hey, boss. Here he comes.
Everyone looked up to the heavens. A shooting star streaks across the night sky over the city, quickly growing larger and brighter. Eddie signals his men, who quickly form a loose circle about the lawn, Tommy gun barrels swinging up. A distant whistling whine soon becomes a war as the Rocketeer swoops overhead. Watched warily by the gangsters, Cliff descends and lands on the grass. He removes his helmet to face the surrounding thicket of gun barrels. Cliff locks eyes with Jenny.
You all right?
She nods.
Take off the pack carefully.
First, give Jenny your car keys. When she's driven down the hill,
We're not here to bargain, Secord. I have the girl.
He pulls Jenny away from Lodar, pulls a lugger from his coat, and presses the gun to his temple.
And I have the gun. The rocket. Now.
Come on, kid. Hand it over so we can all go home.
Cliff holds his breath, wheels turning.
home? You mean Berlin, right?
Sinclair tensed slightly.
What?
Does he pay in dollars or Deutschmarks?
As Sinclair barely covers his shock, Eddie rips on him, eyes narrowed.
What's he yapping about?
Heard straight from the feds, Sinclair. Spy racket, flying commandos, the works.
Sinclair is smooth. Desperation and rage are beginning to light his eyes. Eddie is glaring at him, suspiciously growing.
He's been flying with the airs too thin.
Him about the secret room and the Germans on the radio.
Sinclair glances at Eddie's men, who have been listening intently. Several of the Tommy gun muzzles have drifted in Sinclair's direction. Lothar starts to reach into his coat, only to find Rusty's Tommy gun in his face.
Relax, Frankenstein. You ain't bulletproof.
Talk fast, Sinclair.
Come on, Eddie. We all must serve someone.
Eddie steps in close, bristling.
Adolf and his goose-stepping rats.
Cliff allows himself a small grin. The seed of discord has been sown.
You tell him, Eddie.
Shut up.
Now listen.
No, you listen. I may not earn a straight buck, but I'm 100% American, damn it. Let the lady go.
Ignoring Sinclair, Eddie nods to his men. All but Spanish Johnny swing their attention and gun barrels away from Cliff and on to Sinclair and Lothar. Sinclair tightens his grip on Jenny.
I'm taking the rockets.
You and what army?
Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Sinclair howls to the surrounding cannons.
Stumabteilen! Angreifen!
20 German commandos in gray jumpsuits rush from the bushes and appear atop of the observatory staircase and domes surrounding Eddie and his men. They aim their Schmeiser machine guns at the stunned gangsters. Sinclair flashes a serpent grin at Eddie.
I believe it's your move, Eddie.
Acknowledging that he is outgunned and outmanned, Eddie signals his men to drop their weapons. Sinclair checks his watch, then looks expectantly up to the low-slung clouds. He smiles at the sound of whirling engines can be heard. Cliff, Jenny, Lothar, and the gangster turn their gaze to the sky. Jaws drop as the vast silver belly of a zeppelin lowers towards the observatory, gondolas slowly aglow with its waning lights, and emblazing on the airship side, ablaze on the airship side is the name Luxembourg.
Ergreifen! Der Rockete! Schnell!
One of the commandos runs to Cliff and starts to work on unbuckling the rocket harness. Cliff's mouth tightens as he restrains himself from swinging his fists, eyes on Jenny and the ominous mouths of the Schmeisers.
Altet, Sie, in shock.
The commandos swing the Schmeisers at their captives.
So long, Eddie. Thanks for the memories.
Suddenly, car-mounted spotlight stabs out and illuminate the observatory. Tires screech and smoke as police and FBI sedans halt. Led by Fitch and Woolley, the officers leap from their cars, instantly in position with Tommy guns ready.
This is the FBI. Throw down your guns.
Cliff throws a glance at the distracted Nazi commander who has been unbuckling the rocket harness. The control brackets are still attached to Cliff's wrists. Cliff suddenly thumbs the button.
Cliff!
She looks out in horror as the rocket fires short bursts.
Yeah!
The fire concussion pulls the terrified Cliff across the lawn like a rocket sled, dragging along the hapless commando. They disappear over a ledge, falling roughly into a tangled bush. Lothar yanks his dual 45 free out of their holsters and blasts away. Cops and feds hit the decks as slug punch through the fenders and shred tires. Then all hell breaks loose. The feds pop up and unload their fires on the commandos in the forecourt. Sinclair and Lothar head for the stairs to the roof, Jenny pulled along in a giant's grip. At the same moment, Eddie and his men snatch up their fallen Tommy guns.
Lousy Krauts, let him have it, boys.
The gangsters roll the commandos, unexpectedly joining the feds in the gun battle. Thugs, cops, and commandos fall wounded or dead. Fletch and Woolley, behind the shelter of their bullet pocket sedan, eye the hovering airship.
Watch the Zeppelin. That thing's filled with hydrogen. One bad shot will fry us all.
Sinclair, Lothar, and the unwillingly girl reach to the observatory roof where the Zeppelin is waiting to meet them. Meanwhile, the Nazi commando ranks are being thinned out by the blistering gunfire of the Allied G-men and Gangster. Taking cover behind a police car, Flitch and Woolley glance to their right. They are surprised to find Eddie crouched beside them, blasting away at the Germans. Eddie holds his fire for a moment. He looks over at Flitch and Woolley and gives them a tight grin.
Now I've seen everything. Eddie Valentine and his mugs on our side.
Exterior Griffith Observatory, night. The Zeppelin's pilot has lowered the gondola as close to the observatory roof as it dares. A ladder is lowered to the roof. Jenny is in Sinclair's grasp as Lothar nimbly climbs the rungs.
Please, Neville, let me go.
Lothar reaches down and grabs Jenny, pulling her, kicking and screaming into the gondola. Exterior hillside night. Cliff struggles to his knees, blood dripping from his forehead. Jenny piercing cries reach his ears. Looking up with his glazed eyes, he sees the Zeppelin lifting from the roof. He yanks a Mauser machine gun pistol from the holster of the dead commando beside him and struggles up the hillside. Interior gondola night. Inside the gondola, Sinclair is met by a tense German in a dark suit with a swastika lapel pin.
Sie haben die Rocket nicht.
I have her. That damned rocket will come to us. Now get this ship above the clouds.
Exterior Griffith Observatory night. With the aid of the Valentine gang, the squad of cops and G-men have overwhelmed the last of the commandos. The surviving hoods aid their wounded. Cliff reaches the observatory lawn. He runs across the forecourt, grabbing up the brass helmet, and races up the winding stone staircase. Fitch and Woolley watch it in this way as the escaping Zeppelin lifts towards the clouds.
We're losing him. Maybe not. Look.
Exterior observatory dome night. The Rocketeer pauses atop of its copper domes and fastens his helmet. He checks the Mauser clip. A large American flag flutters in the night breeze. For that brief moment, with his bronze helmet gleaming in the moonlight and weapons poised for action, he is the stuff mitts are made of. Then a bosom of fire and smoke, and he is shooting towards the Zeppelin like a flaming arrow. Exterior Zeppelin night. The Rocketeer sails towards the Zeppelin. The airship's silver trail rushes to meet the airborne Cliff. He eases off the throttle button, but has clearly misjudged his speed. The velocity carries him in a descending arc straight into the Zeppelin's tail. Cliff smashes into the mass of water. The skin tears with Cliff's impact. He slides down the vertical stabilizer and lands hard on his back, atop the Zeppelin's arched body. The rudder swings erratically, thrown off balance as the wind expands the hole. Using all his strength, Cliff pulls himself to his feet, fighting the wind. Interior gondola night. As Jenny is held by Lothar in the corner of the gondola, Sinclair watches tentatively as the airship pilot and crewmen work the controls with the mounting difficulty. The agent hovers as the captain elbows steadily himself as the gondola urges.
Stimmt was nicht.
The rudder. Something's interfering with the rudder.
A hopeful look plays across Jenny's face. Exterior Zeppelin night. A beacon atop the airship flashes red as the Rocketeer moves along the surface towards the hatch. As he reaches for the hatch cover, it springs open, knocking the Mauser from Cliff's hand. They fight. Rocketeer gets knocked off the Zeppelin, zips around the other side, and shoots at Lothar like a missile, knocking him down the side, still attached to his safety tether. Interior gondola night. The sweating pilot is fighting the control of the Zeppelin's flight.
Der Führer has steps zu Ihnen gesagt. Bringen Sie mir die Rocket. Was soll ich dem Führer sagen?
Do I have to fly the ship myself? Keep us on course, damn it.
Don't worry, Sinclair. My pilot is the finest in Germany.
He is interrupted as Lothar's body suddenly swings down hard, smashing through the gondola windows. Like a wrecking ball, he strikes the pilot and sends them flying into the door. which burst open, propelling him out into the void. Lothar swings back and dangles for a moment, like a broken marionette, before drifting away into the darkness. The panic agent whirls on Sinclair.
Oh, das ist eine Schuld. Weil wir ohne die Rocket nach Hause kommen, werden wir beide aufgeraubt.
We are losing altitude. We must drop some weight from the gondola.
Without a moment hesitation, Sinclair pulls out his automatic and shoots at the Nazi agent. Clutching his chest, the agent falls out the open doorway. All at once, the roof hatch drops and Cliff leaps down. The remaining German crewmen jump at Cliff. Cliff dodges the man's punch, grabbing his wrist and throws him against the gondola walls, knocking the crewman senseless.
Jenny!
Sinclair presses the gleaming muzzle on his automatic pistol beneath Jenny's chin. His eyes are wild.
I've had a belly full of you and your cheap heroics. You hand over the rocket.
He yanks back on Jenny's hair for emphasis, and the girl cries out painfully.
Or I'll blow her brains all over the cabin.
Cliff, don't give it to him. You can't.
Cliff looked deeply into her eyes.
I have to.
Slide it across to me.
Defeated, Cliff slips the rocket straps from his back. He sets the rocket on the floor and surreptitiously pulls the wad of luck gum from the crease fuel tank, then slides the rocket across to Sinclair. The spy brutally pushes Jenny to the airship's captain and hands him the automatic.
If she moves, kill her.
If one more man puts a gun to my head,
Then raises the gun.
that's it.
Before Cliff or Sinclair can react, Jenny stomps her sharp heels into the captain's instep. She whirls free of the captain's grasp, then pushes him hard against the control panel. The captain slumps unconsciously to the deck, the gun falling from his hand. Jenny kicks it across the floor and it sails out the open door. Cliff lunges at Sinclair, throwing a punch that knocks him into the gondola floor.
Well, you're stuntman now, Sinclair.
Sinclair leaps to his feet. He throws a punch that connects with Cliff's jaw. Cliff staggers back.
I do my own stunts.
Cliff looks at him, faces a grim mask of determination. Cliff lands a solid punch. Sinclair recovers and they pummel each other, fairly matched the size and ability. Then Sinclair knocks Cliff back hard against the cabin wall. Cliff's head bashes open an emergency case. The contents spill out and scatter across the floor, including a wide-barreled pistol. Bruised and bloody, Sinclair seizes Cliff by the front of his jacket. He slams him against the cabin walls. He is stopped by Jenny's voice.
Stop, or I'll shoot. I swear I will.
Sinclair turns to find Jenny standing opposite him, the pistol from the emergency case aimed in her trembling hand. Shakes his sweat and blood from his eyes. He sees what is in Jenny's grip.
Jenny, no.
Sinclair bluntly lunges at the girl. She screams and yanks the trigger. Sinclair dives aside, but it is not a bullet he has avoided. It is a signal flare. The flare ricochets across the gondola, leaving fire wherever it touches. The projectile finally buries itself into the control console, which bursts into flames. Cliff looks about frantically. He spots a fire extinguisher on the wall beside the smashed windows. Wrenching the cylinder from its brackets, he sprays the liquid on the flaming console to no avail. The flames continue to spread. Smoke is filling the cabin.
Sinclair, help us get this fire out.
At the sound of a distinctive click, he turns to see that Sinclair has fastened the rocket's face belt and is poised in the open gondola door. The rocket pack is strapped to his back, and he frantically adjusts the harness.
Goodbye, darling. I'm going to miss Hollywood.
Be so sure.
The spy fires the rocket and leaps from the gondola. Exterior sky night. Sinclair rockets away from the doomed Zeppelin, The Hollywood Hills spread below him. Suddenly, the fuel spraying from the leak ignites in the fire is sucked into the rocket pack and backpack bursts into flames. Sinclair twists around, trying to control the damaged pack, but it is of no use. He corkscrews down towards the earth in a spiral of flames with the Zeppelin behind him. Then Sinclair sees the gigantic white letters rushing up to meet him like a greeting from hell. Exterior Hollywoodland sign night. Like a comet, Sinclair strikes the Hollywoodland sign perched on its hillside. There is tremendous explosion removing Trevor Sinclair and the last 4 letters of the sign from the face of the earth. The flaming ruins illuminate the spy's memorial, a gigantic sign which now reads Hollywood. Exterior Zeppelin night. Cliff and Jenny emerge from the maintenance hatch. He helps her up from the fuselage. Cliff holds her, protecting her from the wind.
This thing's full of hydrogen. When the fire hits the envelope,
I love you, Cliff.
She throws her arm tightly around him, and they kiss. As that moment, flames consume the gondola, licking up into the envelope. Then engines sound as the flap of rotors get their attention. Approaching the airship trails is an autogyro, an odd-looking aircraft with both a conventional prop and a blade like a helicopter. In the craft's pilot seat is Hughes. In front of him sits Peevy, leaning up for the edge, guiding Hughes into the position. Hughes fights to keep her steadily as Peevy throws down a rope ladder. Suddenly, an art hand appears as Lothar hauls himself up atop the Zeppelin, having climbed the tether. He rises in front of Cliff and Jenny. Snarling like a maddened beast, he blocks their only escape route. The snarl quickly fades from Lothar's face as he looks past the terrified couple to a distant churning bell of flame. The Zeppelin shudders as the pockets of volatile hydrogen gas begins to ignite. Lothar turns and flees away from the fire. Cliff and Jenny follow. Like a chain reaction, the explosion ripples around the autoship body. A huge fireball is splurging towards the tail, hungry to swallow the fleeing trio. Suddenly, Lothar stops dead, literally at the end of his rope. Thick fingers begin to work on the tether lines, release clips as Cliff and Jenny splurge past him towards the hanging ladder. Lothar turns to see a tidal wave of flames upon him. Peevy yells at the top of his lungs,
Jump for it.
Jenny wraps her arms around Cliff's neck. He times his leap to the swinging ladder. Jenny closes his eyes as Cliff grabs the rope ladder with both hands.
Hang on.
Hugh pushes the stick, and the autogyro banks swiftly away. Cliff and Jenny in tow. The autogyro has barely made a safe distance when the fireball completes its consumption of the Zeppelin's silver skin, ripping it into fragments. As the airship disintegrates over the San Fernando Valley, the autogyro descends towards the Hollywood Hills. On the rope ladder, Jenny clings tightly to Cliff as the dying glow plays about them. Exterior Bulldog Cafe morning. The morning sun whitewashes the cafe. Interior Bulldog Cafe morning. Cliff, Jenny, and Peevy sit at a table, the remains of breakfast before them. Peevy reads a newspaper headline. Airship disaster over Hollywood Hills.
Authorities speculate that the explosion was caused by a freak bolt of lightning, which resulted in the loss of the entire German crew. Film fans were saddened by news that actor Trevor Sinclair also died in a tragedy when flaming debris fell on his touring car. What a shame. Nice car.
Jenny looks across at Cliff, who stares out the window, lost in thought.
You're looking pretty sad for a guy who pretty much saved the world.
Peevy chuckles ruefully.
I got the cracked ribs to prove it. And not much else.
Jenny edges over next to Cliff and rests her chin on his shoulder.
You got me.
Cliff slowly smiles as he gazes into her eyes. Suddenly, a familiar drawing fills the sky. Dishes rattle on the counter. Cliff jumps to his feet and rushes outside as the sound diminishes in the distance. Exterior Bulldog morning. Cliff stops in the gravel driveway outside the Bulldog, searching the sky. Jenny comes up beside him.
What is it, Cliff?
Sounds like a racer. I missed her though. I guess she's coming in over at the field.
Jenny watches Cliff face as he strains to hear the distant engine. She takes his hand and together they start back into the cafe. Suddenly, a shiny blue limousine rounds the corner and slides to a stop before the Bulldog. Two men leap out and clear the street, signaling autos and pedestrians to make way. The thunderous roar of a radical engine grows louder. Then a brand new GB racer, black and white finish gleaming, taxis around the corner and eases to a stop before the diner. The prop wash sends autumn leaves dancing. The engine shuts down and the canopy lifts. Howard Hughes emerges, a canvas windbreaker over his brown suit. Peevy and the rest of the Bulldog regulars emerge from the cafe. His hands in Jenny, Cliff approaches the plane as Hughes climbs from the cockpit.
She's a beauty, Mr. Hughes.
Thanks. Built her myself. By next month, she'll be ready for the Nationals. Miss Blake, would you excuse us for a moment?
Of course.
Pulls Cliff a few steps to the side. He leans in close, speaking confidentially.
I've been meaning to ask you, what was it like strapping that thing to your back, flying like a hawk?
Closest thing to heaven.
Hughes grinned. Cliff looks past him to Jenny, radiant in the morning sun.
Well, second closest.
See you around, Rocketeer.
Hughes stares back to his limousine. Then, remembering, he turns and tosses something to Cliff.
Oh, and don't fly without this.
Cliff catches a pack of B-Men's chewing gum. Hughes continues to his car. Confused, Cliff looks over at the GB as one of the Hughes' assistants pulls a piece of masking tape away from the rim of the cockpit. Revealed is hand-lettered script, Pilot, Cliff Secord. Stunned to silence, a wide grin forms on Cliff's battered face. He turns, but Hughes has already ducked into his car. His aides join him and the car pulls away. Hughes' hands appear briefly out of the window, waving as the limousine whispers around the corner and disappears. Jenny and Peevy join Cliff. The cafe regulars and locals gather about the gleaming new racing plane.
Didn't get a chance to thank him.
He saw it in your face, kid.
Cliff, I have something for you too. Actually, it belongs to Peevy.
She takes a folded paper from her purse and hands it to Peevy. He unfolds it.
Oh no.
It is Peevy's schematics of the rocket pack. Cliff and Peevy exchange looks. Peevy shakes his head in consternation. Cliff laughs. He sweeps Jenny up in a joyful embrace as an ominous shadow falls across the plaster thigh of the Bulldog Cafe. A shadow wearing a fedora and leveling a pistol at Cliff, Jenny, and Peevy. Suddenly, Patsy swoops from a tree on a tire swing. She wears a tin pot on her head and round oatmeal box tied to her back. Rocketeer to the rescue! She tackles the would-be assassin, a little boy, wearing his father's old, oversized hat and brandishing a water pistol. Patsy and her playmate roll across the lawn, kicking and laughing. The end.
Yay.
Thank you all for watching The Rocketeer. And thank you to this wonderful cast for another wonderful read. We will see you next time.